Chapter 181, 10,000 Immortals Grand Formation. He Zhenghao's triumphant voice came through the talisman. Zhang Ziliang is quite eccentric. It took me considerable effort to convince him. Of course, the required contribution points are slightly higher than the 10,000 contribution points required for Master Gong. 13,000 contribution points. It's a rare opportunity. If you're interested, contact me as soon as possible. After that, the talisman fell silent. Only an additional 3,000 contribution points, no problem. Thank you, fellow Taoist. Li Fan thought for a moment and gave a positive response to He Zhenghao. On one hand, it was to get closer to Zhang Ziliang and try to become his formal disciple. On the other hand, it was a perfect opportunity to join the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Joining the system of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance had many benefits. Compared to the over 10,000 contribution points spent in this closed-door cultivation, the 13,000 contribution points were well worth it. Sending the message, He Zhenghao immediately replied, "In that case, to avoid delays, fellow Taoist, quickly go to the transmission square and wait for me. I will take you to meet Zhang Ziliang first. Then we'll quickly secure the spot. Remember, even though it's just a small position as a formation repairer, there are still quite a few foundation establishment cultivators eyeing it." Li Fan also replied, "Thank you for your trouble." After leaving the Tianshuan mirror, he went to the transmission square to wait for He Zhenghao. As soon as he arrived, he saw that He Zhenghao was already waiting. "Fellow Taoist, you've gone through much trouble for me," Li Fan said to He Zhenghao. "He, no need to be so polite. Since you were introduced into the 10,000 Immortals Alliance by me, I naturally have to take good care of you. Moreover, it's mutually beneficial. Maybe in the future, I'll have something that requires your help." He Zhenghao waved his hand, not minding. Then he said, "Zhang Ziliang is not on 10,000 Immortals Island right now. Recently, an island suddenly emerged from the seabed in the western part of the Kongyun Sea. Zhang Ziliang and Gong Boyu are currently on that island. It might take a year or more before they come back. You should go with me to see them and secure the spot first." Li Fan nodded. An island emerging from the seabed. Several formation masters from the formation hall are also on the island. Did they discover some sect remnants or something? Li Fan followed He Zhenghao towards a tree-like teleportation formation while asking. He Zhenghao shook his head. "It's not a sect remnant, just an ordinary island. Over 3,000 years ago, for some unknown reason, the entire island sank into the ocean. Now, it has resurfaced. Oddly, this island seems to have been under the 10,000 Immortals Alliance originally, but there's no record of this island. The Guardian formation around the island was reactivated after it surfaced. And the Guardian formation from back then is quite different from the current one. That's why several formation masters from the formation hall went to check it out." He Zhenghao explained. Using the teleportation formation, the two arrived at a huge island full of various trees, similar to a primitive forest. This place was more than 10 times larger than Luli Island. The new island is located more than 500 miles west of this Lingmu Island. Li Fan and He Zhenghao flew towards their destination while conversing. Could it be that the formations from 1,000 years ago are stronger than those nowadays? Why would several formation masters go there to study? Li Fan asked, expressing the doubts in his mind. Fellow Taoist, you may not know this. The Guardian formations commonly used within our 10,000 Immortals Alliance are not fixed. We've always had conflicts with the Five Elders Association. If we had a set and unchanging formation for over 100 years, it risks being leaked or easily cracked on a large scale. So, Guardian formations undergo a minor change every 200 years and a major change every 1,000 years. A minor change refers to keeping the basic logic of the formation unchanged, only subtly adjusting the layout of the formation. While a major change involves building an entirely new formation. He Zhenghao explained slowly. So, the Guardian formation running on that island from 3,000 years ago is quite a rarity. Its power is average, but those proficient in formations can discern its intricacies and deduce the 10,000 Immortals Grand Formation that complements it. Li Fan was momentarily stunned, the complementary 10,000 Immortals Grand Formation. After hesitating for a moment, He Zhenghao explained in a hushed tone, "This 10,000 Immortals Grand Formation doesn't refer to the one on 10,000 Immortals Island. Rather, it refers to the true 10,000 Immortals Grand Formation formed by all the Guardian formations in the cities and islands within a region, with the 10,000 Immortals Guardian Formation within the central island city as the core, amplifying its power." This 10,000 Immortals Grand Formation, once fully activated, covers the entire region with unimaginable power. It's said to have a record of killing DAO integration level figures. But the resources it consumes are extremely huge, and it can only be activated with approval from the 10,000 Immortals Alliance headquarters. It's generally only used during invasions by the Five Elders Association. Li Fan, who was only beginning to understand formations, imagined the scene in his mind and couldn't help but take in a sharp breath. No wonder the 10,000 Immortals Alliance goes to great lengths to build guardian formations in most cities within its territory. It turns out there's this additional consideration. At this moment, He Zhenghao continued with a cheerful tone, privately, we've speculated that this might not be the complete form of the 10,000 Immortals Grand Formation. The true form might be a massive formation covering all 10,000 Immortals Alliance territories, formed by fully activating the 10,000 Immortals Grand Formations in each region as nodes. But this is purely our idle speculation. That kind of formation is too terrifying. Once activated, I'm afraid the entire cultivation world would suffer immense destruction. Li Fan listened in silence. Judging by the 10,000 Immortals Alliance's style of doing things, this ultimate form of the 10,000 Immortals Grand Formation is definitely real. The Xuanwang realm has maintained peace despite being almost divided between the conflicting 10,000 Immortals Alliance and the Five Elders. Aside from those elusive longevity immortals, the existence of this ultimate 10,000 Immortals Grand Formation is probably a crucial factor. After a moment of contemplation, Li Fan fell into silence, and the two continued their journey in silence. Not long after, the once sunken island came into view. Even from a distance, Li Fan could sense that the dampness on the island had not yet dissipated. Most of the buildings on the island were still intact. However, having been submerged in the sea for 1,000 years, the surfaces of the buildings were covered with seaweed and algae. On the streets, countless fish that had been separated from the seawater were leaping and struggling for survival. Outside the island, Li Fan could vaguely see a golden formation barrier. I wonder why this island sank for some unknown reason 3,000 years ago. And now, why did it suddenly resurface? Chapter 182, Mountain and River Formation. On the golden barrier enveloping the island, there was a small circular gap. He Zhenghao led Li Fan into the protective formation through this gap. When you meet the formation masters later, don't bring up the matter of contribution points in front of them. Act accordingly, and after everything is settled, transfer the contribution points to me. I'll then pass them on to Zhang Ziliang, He Zhenghao whispered to Li Fan. Li Fan smiled slightly, indicating his understanding. Ha, fellow Taoist He, came just in time. At that moment, the laughter of Gong Boyu came from afar. Li Fan looked towards the sound and saw several formation masters from the formation hall gathered here. In front of them was a large vertical screen, on which many tiny formation units flashed rapidly. Formation masters occasionally pointed at the screen, discussing things with varied expressions. What's this? Li Fan's gaze flashed as he looked towards the golden formation in the sky. Sure enough, he vaguely saw many small discs, like crawling insects, attached to the surface of the formation. While absorbing the power of the formation, these discs simultaneously transmitted the data of the units that formed the protective formation to the central screen. Formation breaking discs. In the 12th life, Zhang Ziliang's legacy mentioned this kind of treasure. It could analyze the composition data of a formation without damaging its structure, providing a reference for cracking the formation. A set of 1,180 formation breaking discs was quite valuable. Li Fan had never had the chance to see them before, but unexpectedly, he encountered them today. Come, fellow Taoist He, come and take a look at the latest analysis data. See if the reappearance of this island from the sea floor is related to changes in the earth veins. Gong Boyu enthusiastically called. Though He Zhenghao was excited about the study, he hadn't forgotten about the main business. He turned to Zhang Ziliang and said, Fellow Taoist Zhang, this is the cultivator I mentioned before, Li Fan, who is willing to follow you as a formation repairer. He has a foundation establishment cultivation and some understanding of formations. Zhang Ziliang casually glanced at Li Fan, tossed over a testing ball, and said, test yourself first. As long as you're not completely ignorant of formations, there should be no problem. Li Fan took the testing ball, and after his spiritual sense circulated through it, the test quickly ended. Zhang Ziliang looked at the number of glowing points on the testing ball and was somewhat surprised. You've only been self-studying formations so far. With these results, you're quite good. As a formation repairer, you have more than enough ability. Zhang Ziliang knew the difficulty of the questions inside the testing ball. Some of them could be considered quite tricky. Even apprentices in the formation hall might not perform as well as the person before him. Master, you're too kind. This junior has limited talent. The only thing I rely on is constant diligence. Li Fan calmly responded. Zhang Ziliang nodded, increasingly satisfied, and handed Li Fan a jade token. A diagram of the main building of the formation hall was engraved on the jade token. Zhang Ziliang instructed, with this jade token, register your identity at the government hall first, then collect the relevant items at the 10,000 mirror. After activating your permissions, if you have any questions, you can also find answers in the 10,000 mirror. Li Fan nodded in acknowledgement, put away the jade token, and thanked him with a bow. Seeing that things had gone smoothly, He Zhenghao also showed a pleased expression and immediately focused his attention on the screen of the formation-breaking discs. The atmosphere became focused, and his temperament changed suddenly, as if he had transformed into a different person in an instant. Li Fan couldn't help but marvel at the sight. On the screen, the speed of the flashing images continued to increase. He Zhenghao also seemed to be struggling a bit, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. Above his head, a scroll unfolded slowly. In the scroll, faintly visible were continuous mountain ranges and a densely laid out network of water. Mountains and rivers intertwined, stretching for countless miles. The grandeur was magnificent and spectacular. This should be fellow Taoists' foundation treasure, the mountain and river vein formation diagrams. Judging from its power, it seems to be more than just a mere human treasure, Li Fan observed carefully, silently pondering. After about half a stick of incense, He Zhenghao finally took a deep breath and retracted the peculiar phenomenon. Fellow Taoist Gong has an extraordinary eye. Your vision can be described in one word: accurate. He Zhenghao praised first. He then continued slowly, indeed, this island is currently situated on top of an earth vein. There must have been significant changes at some other node on this earth vein, causing this island, which had been submerged in the sea for 3,000 years, to reappear on the surface. But that location seems to be extremely far from the Kongyun Sea. With my foundational establishment cultivation, it's difficult for me to sense the specific location, He Zhenghao regretfully said. He Zhenghao's words immediately sparked a heated discussion among the group of formation masters. So, it was caused by changes in the earth vein. How big of a disturbance must that be? If fellow Taoist he can't sense it, the location of the incident should be quite far away. With such a distance, the impact of the incident should have been tremendous to sink an island all the way over here. Just go back and inquire about which province it happened in. That's not necessarily the case. Earth vein changes may also occur in the deep underground. The surface may experience only slight tremors. While the discussion was intense over there, Zhang Ziliang, who had not participated, suddenly asked, "Fellow Taoist He, what do you think of this golden protective formation?" He Zhenghao squinted his eyes, pondered for a moment, and replied, "This golden formation is connected to the earth vein. If my guess is correct, it should be based on the mountain and river formation. As long as the earth vein is intact, this defensive formation will be endless. And the 10,000 Immortals Grand Formation can condense the earth vein of a whole province for protection. Its defense is so strong that even 3 or 4 cultivators in the Dao integration realm may not be able to break it. It's stronger than the current formation by more than 1 level." Zhang Ziliang nodded slowly. Although this formation's defensive power is strong, if the formation is broken, it will cause some damage to the earth vein. I wonder what happened at that time to force people to resort to a solution as extreme as the mountain and river formation. Gong Boyu also approached at this moment. Why bother with so much? This free mountain and river formation is right in front of us. You can study it without spending any contribution points. Such a good thing as a once-in-a-century opportunity. He Zhenghao agreed, saying, "Fellow Taoist Gong makes sense. These opportunities should not be missed. We should study it carefully." Saying this, the group immersed themselves in the continuously flashing images on the screen of the formation-breaking discs. Li Fan also observed for a while. Unfortunately, with his current foundation in formations, he was not yet able to comprehend anything from it. Watching the several formation masters engrossed in their study, Li Fan decided not to linger any longer. After bidding farewell, he quietly returned to 10,000 Immortals Island. He headed straight for the central formation hall on the island. Chapter 183, White Jade Inquiry Platform. Carrying the jade token given by Zhang Ziliang, the radiant light of the seven-colored immortal felling formation merely brushed past Li Fan, without eliciting any sense of threat. The Government Hall and the Council Hall were the two most prominent tall buildings in the central area of 10,000 Immortals Island. Following the path, Li Fan quickly arrived outside the Government Hall. A chi condensation cultivator dressed in black and yellow robes stood at the entrance. Upon seeing Li Fan approaching, he gave a glance and then politely inquired, "Fellow Taoist, are you here to register for a position in the formation hall?" Li Fan nodded. "All right, follow me." Li Fan followed the cultivator, walking all the way inside to a small room deep within the government hall. Upon entering, he discovered another world. The guiding cultivator left on his own, leaving Li Fan alone to observe this space. Numerous tall red wooden cabinets were arranged side by side on the ground. There were an extremely large number of these wooden cabinets. They were endless. With a quick glance, one couldn't see the end. An old man with white hair stood silently in front of these red wooden cabinets. Observing him, Li Fan felt as if this old man wasn't inactive. Instead, it seemed like he had countless clones busy in front of these red wooden cabinets. Li Fan looked up and carefully examined this space. All around was a vast expanse of whiteness. Apart from the red wooden cabinets and the white-haired old man, there were no other decorations. It was monotonous and somewhat frightening. It seems that this place, like the Tianshuan Mirror, is a space shared by every branch of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Li Fan speculated silently. However, he didn't show any disrespect and promptly handed the jade token to the old man. Taking the jade token, the old man glanced at Li Fan. He cleared his throat and calmly said, "Although you are under Zhang Ziliang, if you want to officially join the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, you still need to go through the proper procedures." The old man pointed to the blank area in front of him, and suddenly, a white platform rose from the ground. Made entirely of white jade, it emitted a lustrous glow. This is the inquiry platform. To prevent spies from the Five Elders Association from infiltrating the Alliance, you must pass the inquiry platform test before joining. Stand on it, the old man instructed, not giving Li Fan a chance to refuse. Li Fan's heart trembled slightly, raising his spirits, ready to use truth if anything went wrong. After leaping onto the white inquiry platform, a miniaturized projection of Li Fan instantly appeared around him. It included some basic information about him within the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Besides the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, have you ever joined any other cultivation organizations? Glancing at Li Fan's information, the white-haired old man asked. None, Li Fan quickly answered. The white jade platform remained normal, with no abnormalities. The white-haired old man nodded, then continued to ask, "Have you had any dealings with the Five Elders Association?" No. Do you harbor ill intentions towards the 10,000 Immortals Alliance? No. Do you have any living relatives? All mortals, no attachments. Time passed in the process of questions and answers. Fortunately, these were basic questions about one's stance, without delving into the privacy of a cultivator's techniques or abilities. Li Fan answered each question calmly. One last question. The old man cleared his throat. Why did you join the 10,000 Immortals Alliance? Li Fan paused for a moment and answered slowly, "Immortality." The white-haired old man's eyes flickered slightly. The inquiry platform silently disappeared from view. You have successfully passed the inquiry test. From today onwards, you are an official member of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. The old man clapped his hands, and in front of him, Li Fan's miniature projection image slowly appeared. Next to the image, there were lengthy pages of text and the footage of Li Fan's questioning process. Afterward, a red wooden cabinet from a distance, like a phantom, traversed through layers of wooden cabinets and flew to the front of the white-haired old man. One of the cabinet doors opened on its own. The old man pressed his hands in the air, compressing the image data in front of him into a glowing white paper. Gently, he placed the paper into the cabinet. Then, the cabinet door closed, and the wooden cabinet instantly returned to its original position, disappearing from Li Fan's sight. You may go, the white-haired old man said to Li Fan, then returned to his previous motionless state. Li Fan bowed and quietly withdrew. Leaving this pale space, at the entrance of the government hall, Li Fan encountered the guide cultivator from before. He glanced at Li Fan and cupped his hands. Congratulations, fellow Taoist, on officially joining. Oh, how you could tell, Li Fan replied politely. Because after going up the inquiry platform, if you haven't officially joined, the only other possibility is death. Since fellow Taoist is alive, the result is self-evident. The guiding cultivator answered with a smile. Thank you for the insight. I am Li Fan. Saying this, Li Fan handed over a communication talisman. I am Gao Yuan. Taking Li Fan's talisman, Gao Yuan became even more courteous. Li Fan exchanged a few more pleasantries with him before returning to the Tianquan mirror. Upon entering, he received a notification. Welcome, Cultivator Li Fan. You have officially joined the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Your current position, Formation Repairer for the Kong Yunxi. Responsibility, assist Zhang Ziliang of the Formation Hall in maintaining the protective formations in the Kong Yunxi area. Fixed wage, 1,500 contribution points per year. Each time you participate in maintenance, you can earn an additional 2,000 contribution points based on your level of participation. Minimum duty requirement, participate in at least 3 major array maintenance tasks every 10 years. Reminder, if you fail to meet the minimum duty requirement for the first time, you will receive a warning. If there is a second time, your formation repairer position will be forcibly revoked, and you will not be allowed to rejoin for 100 years. Please take your responsibilities seriously. You can now increase your permission level within the 10,000 Immortals Alliance by accumulating merits. The higher your permission level, the more items and techniques you can view and exchange. Your current permission level, 1. Complete merit tasks to earn merits. Merits are divided into 6 levels from top to bottom: Heaven, Earth, First, Second, Third, Fourth. Each level is further divided into upper, middle, and lower. In addition to various new prompts, Li Fan also received several items at the same time. One of them was the standard black and yellow robe used within the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. The robe provided simple protection and could effectively resist attacks from mid-level Foundation establishment cultivators. For Li Fan, it was better than nothing. If the robe got damaged and needed replacement, he would have to spend contribution points to buy a new one in the Tianquan mirror. Another item was the Identity Jade Disc. If you didn't join the 10,000 Immortals Alliance's system, the Alliance wouldn't care if you were killed outside. However, with this Identity Jade Disc, if you died unexpectedly, the Heavenly Secrets Hall would investigate. Based on the specific results of the investigation, they would decide whether to carry out revenge. Chapter 184, Tian Island Spy. In addition to the robe uniform and Identity Jade Disc, there was also a unique communication talisman. The talisman was circular, intricately carved with patterns around it, and a 10,000 character engraved in the center. As his spiritual consciousness was immersed in it, he instantly felt like he was in the starry sea. Countless dim stars were faintly visible around, representing members of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. The image of He Zhenghao flashed through his mind. In an instant, among countless stars, he found the one representing He Zhenghao. Li Fan sent a friend request. After a while, that dim star brightened. In a dark galaxy, it became conspicuously bright. Fellow Taoist acted so fast. You've officially joined. Congratulations. He Zhenghao's message quickly arrived. I must thank fellow Taoist He. Li Fan replied. However, there was no further response, indicating that He Zhenghao was once again immersed in the study of the mountain and river formation. Li Fan also sent friend requests to Chen Ying, Zhang Ziliang, Gong Boyu, and others. Then his spiritual consciousness retreated from the communication talisman. In the Tianquan mirror, Li Fan began to search for merit tasks. As opposed to tasks that earned contribution points, merit tasks were mostly directly issued by the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. The task types ranged from collecting materials to participating in the maintenance of the daily operations of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. There was also a special category of tasks, which involved reporting and exposing spies infiltrating the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, such as those from the Five Elders Association or other cultivation organizations. For such tasks, the merits varied based on the spy's rank. Li Fan's current permission level was 1. Basically, by completing any merit task, he could upgrade to level 2. However, there was a limit on the number of merit tasks one could complete. A maximum of 3 tasks could be completed each year. Li Fan wasn't in a hurry to accept them. Apart from tasks, there were other ways to earn merits. For example, recommending cultivators to join the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, like He Zhenghao did before. Or providing valuable information. There were no restrictions on these, and more was better. One point that caught Li Fan's interest was that the merits required to upgrade permission levels were not a fixed value but instead displayed as a progress bar. This was because the Tianquan mirror would adjust the merits based on their real-time value. For example, say a merit task that required handing in scarlet cloud ice would always exist. After completing the task, a lower third-class merit would be rewarded. However, the value of scarlet cloud ice itself fluctuated continuously. Under normal circumstances, the value of these items wouldn't fluctuate drastically. But in the history of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, there were cases where the value of certain resources plummeted significantly. So, the Tianquan mirror would adjust and precisely control based on the real-time value of merits. Li Fan's focus was on a merit task with a middle third-class merit reward. A small progress bar appeared next to the task introduction. Above the progress bar, there was a small number indicating 43. This meant that completing this task and earning the medium third-class merit would raise Li Fan's permission level by 1, as well as providing an additional 43% progress. The 10,000 Immortals Alliance had a total of 49 permission levels. In the beginning, promotion was relatively simple, but it became increasingly difficult as one progressed. Understanding the mechanism of merits and permission levels, Li Fan then searched for cultivation techniques. Immediately, Li Fan noticed a difference from the past. Some search results were prominently marked with golden font. This indicated that only members within the 10,000 Immortals Alliance system could see these cultivation techniques. Moreover, these restricted cultivation techniques could only be used for personal cultivation after redemption and couldn't be shared with others. If they were lost, and someone else learned them, there were personnel from the law enforcement hall responsible for recovery, and the original redeemer would be penalized by deducting a certain amount of merits. Li Fan carefully examined these restricted cultivation techniques. Among them, the golden font of some was bright, indicating that Li Fan could redeem them with his current permission level. However, there was another fraction with a dim golden color, requiring permission levels beyond Li Fan's current level. He could only view their introductions but couldn't redeem them. Generally speaking, one could see search results 3 permission levels above their own as a form of encouragement. Li Fan casually looked at a dim golden core stage cultivation technique. 65,000 contribution points, permission level 3 required, for redemption. Absorb the spiritual energy of metal to nurture sword intent within the body. Sword intent can be used for flying on a sword and as a spiritual weapon to kill enemies. The power is indeed much stronger than what I've seen before, and the price is higher too. Li Fan looked at several other dim golden cultivation techniques, and they were all the same. If the Yanfa-Ju constantly derivates out cultivation techniques day and night, there will certainly be some world-shaking divine techniques. They likely won't be much weaker than the foundational techniques of those ancient sects. Even if I can't redeem them, taking a glance and broadening my knowledge would be good. Unfortunately, my permission level is not enough. Permission level, permission level. Li Fan then recalled the various ways to earn merits. A figure suddenly flashed in his mind. The guardian of Tian Island, Zhou Qingong. In his previous 2 lives, this person always fled before the arrival of the Crimson Flame, which seemed somewhat suspicious to Li Fan. There were only 2 possibilities. One was that Zhou Qingong had a very strong background. In the 10th life, even the 2 soul transformation true monarchs of the 10,000 Immortals Island couldn't detect the imminent arrival of the Crimson Flame. However, Zhou Qingong did. This indicated that Zhou Qingong's background was even more formidable than these soul transformation powerhouses, in other words, a Dao integration immortal sage. In Li Fan's opinion, this possibility was low. If Zhou Qingong truly had the backing of an immortal sage, he could have just left directly. There would be no need to appoint someone else to guard Tian Island as a proxy under the pretense of going out to look for opportunities. Therefore, the remaining possibility was far more likely. Zhou Qingong might be a spy planted by another organization within the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Li Fan believed that the top powerhouses of this world must have sensed something before the Crimson Flame arrived. For some unknown reason, the 10,000 Immortals Alliance headquarters did not issue a warning about the danger to the 10,000 Immortals Islands, but other organizations should have detected some signs as well. For instance, the Wanhua Chamber of Commerce had issued an order for all its members to evacuate the Kongyun Sea before the calamity struck. Zhou Qingong likely also received a notice from his organization, which led him to escape from the Kongyun Sea. Of course, this was just Li Fan's speculation. To confirm this, further verification was needed. If his guess was wrong, that would be fine. However, if Zhou Qingong was indeed a spy, Li Fan would gain a lot. Not only would he harvest a large amount of merits and contribution points, but more importantly, Li Fan also wanted to find a way to deceive the inquiry platform from him. Chapter 185. Splitting the Mind. With the help of truth one could undergo infinite cycles of reincarnation. Apart from the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, Li Fan would definitely have the opportunity to visit other organizations such as the Five Elders Association in the future. He believed that they should also have a method similar to the inquiry platform. To prevent exposure and being directly killed as a spy, it was necessary to find a technique that could conceal his intentions. Moreover, a method to hide the secrets in his heart was particularly important for Li Fan, who possessed truth. You better be a spy, fellow Taoist Zhou. Recalling the scene when he first met Zhou Qingong, Li Fan secretly said in his heart. Subsequently, he separately messaged several people he knew, such as He Zhenghao, Yao Yuan, and Chen Ying, inquiring about Zhou Qingong. After most of the day passed, he gradually received replies. Excluding those who didn't know much about Zhou Qingong, the other responses were quite consistent. Originally, Zhou Qingong was a wandering cultivator. Over 70 years ago, in the later stages of qi condensation, he joined the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. After advancing to the Foundation establishment stage, he successfully passed the assessment held once every 10 years and became the guardian of Tian Island. Zhou Qingong was diligent and responsible in his daily work. Most of the time, he stayed on the island, rarely venturing outside. With this information, Li Fan became even more convinced of his judgment. Next, he had to find a way to expose Zhou Qingong's true colors. Having infiltrated the 10,000 Immortals Alliance for so many years without being discovered by others, this person must be extremely cautious in his actions. For others, finding his flaws might be difficult. But for Li Fan, who harbored the formless killing intent, as long as this person was indeed a spy, it was only a matter of time before he revealed himself under the all-encompassing, 24/7 surveillance throughout the year. Wearing a friendly smile, Li Fan left the Tianshuan mirror and arrived at Tian Island through the teleportation array. Having served as the acting guardian for several years, Li Fan was quite familiar with the island. Above the city where the strange human-faced fruit lived, Li Fan met Zhou Qingong and explained his intentions. Your timing is unfortunate, fellow Taoist. All the remaining Tian fruits have been sold, and there are none left. Zhou Qingong shook his head, expressing regret. Oh, my luck is really bad. I recently heard that there is such a cheap and life-prolonging treasure, but I couldn't find it in the Tianshuan mirror. I wanted to see if fellow Taoist had any in stock. Li Fan sighed, looking regretful. While speaking, he directly activated the formless killing intent, locking onto Zhou Qingong. The formless killing intent was already incredibly subtle, and Li Fan's cultivation level was even greater than Zhou Qingong's by a small realm. Naturally, Zhou Qingong had no awareness of it and enthusiastically suggested, fellow Taoist, don't worry. If you really need it, I will save one for you next time Tian fruit is harvested. Li Fan was delighted, thank you, fellow Taoist. He took out the 10,000 Immortals Alliance communication talisman and added Zhou Qingong as a friend. I am currently serving as a member of the Formation Hall and am responsible for repairing formations. In the future, we can stay in contact. Li Fan said. I don't know if fellow Taoist is acquainted with He Zhenghao, the guardian of Luli Island. My relationship with fellow Taoist he is also quite deep. Zhou Qingong's eyes lit up, and he promptly accepted the friend request. My relationship with fellow Taoist he is also decent. It turns out we all know each other. Li Fan continued to follow Zhou Qingong's lead and chatted for a while. Afterward, he returned to 10,000 Immortals Island. Inside the Tianshuan mirror, Li Fan directly transferred 100 contribution points to Zhou Qingong. Fellow Taoist Zhou, I've transferred the contribution points to you first. Remember to save the Tian fruit for me. Soon, Zhou Qingong replied, fellow Taoist, rest assured. Even if I can't complete the annual tribute mission, I will save one for you. Fellow Taoist Zhou is truly earnest. While praising Zhou Qingong, Li Fan used the vision of heaven and earth to observe his every move. His expression remained normal. Li Fan didn't expect to quickly expose Zhou Qingong. However, the formless killing intent was always watching, and there would come a day when Zhou Qingong would reveal himself. For now, this matter was temporarily put aside. After transferring the 15,000 contribution points to He Zhenghao, Li Fan began the formal process of selecting merit tasks. He planned to first elevate his permission level and then see if he could find techniques related to the mind. This was quite important to him. During the 12th life, he encountered the problem of not enough brainpower. As the lending operations of the Mingyu Palace gradually expanded, Li Fan had to maintain control of both his main body and clone while constantly monitoring nearly 100 borrowers. Although most of them only required a trace of his consciousness, when combined, the brainpower required began to affect his main body unavoidably. It specifically manifested as occasional brief pauses in thinking, and a decrease in his normal thinking speed. In simple terms, Li Fan sometimes felt that his brain was lagging. To solve this problem, there were two methods. One was to increase the strength of his consciousness. The second was to enhance the multitasking ability of his consciousness, splitting his mind into different tasks. Compared to ordinary cultivators, Li Fan's spiritual consciousness strength was already quite strong, equivalent to the late stage of Golden Core, a realm higher than the average foundation establishment cultivator. Now that he had found a method to enhance his spiritual consciousness strength by entering the fallen immortal realm and absorbing the bodies of those possessed, he didn't need to search for other ways to increase spiritual consciousness strength. Therefore, what Li Fan needed to do now was to improve his shortcomings. He needed to find a way to split his mind for various tasks. During the 12th life, even though Li Fan possessed a considerable fortune, he couldn't find such a technique in the Tianquan mirror. He could only reluctantly make do. Since he had joined the system of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance in this life, he naturally wanted to take this opportunity to find a technique that could enhance his multitasking capabilities. Before, Li Fan had searched a bit, but with his permission level only being 1, he hadn't found a suitable technique. However, Li Fan believed that as his permission level increased, he would eventually find a satisfactory technique. Currently, Li Fan was at the foundation establishment stage, and most of the merit tasks available corresponded to third-grade merits. Occasionally, there were 1 or 2 tasks classified as second grade with a label indicating high risk. Li Fan's target was these high-risk tasks. The so-called high risk varied from person to person. For ordinary foundation establishment cultivators within the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, tasks at the Golden Core level were clearly beyond their ability. However, for Li Fan, who possessed various divine techniques, the risks of these tasks weren't as high. For example, one task required him to join a squad from the Martial Hall to clear out beasts on Wanlai Island in the Kongyun Sea. According to the task description, these beasts fed on sound. They reproduced rapidly in large numbers and needed to be cleared out periodically. Although the beasts were rampant, their individual strength was relatively weak. Their basic combat power was only equivalent to the early foundation establishment stage. This task was perfect for Li Fan. Chapter 186. 9 Teams of the Martial Hall. Merit tasks triggered by random events were always being watched by cultivators. Li Fan directly accepted the task to avoid it being snatched by others. Soon, a friend request was sent to him. Martial Hall, Zhang Zhengji. Li Fan accepted the request, and a message from Zhang Zhengji came. Fellow Taoist Li Fan, I have already checked your basic information. With your late foundation establishment cultivation, plus the assistance of formations, there should be no risk in following behind our team to complete this task. I will send you the information about this trip to Wanlai Island shortly for you to prepare. We'll set out tomorrow. Meet at the transmission square. Li Fan didn't rush to check the mission information Zhang Zhengji sent but first investigated Zhang Zhengji's personal information. His spiritual consciousness touched the star in the starry sea representing Zhang Zhengji, and a brief message instantly appeared in Li Fan's mind. Zhang Zhengji, a member of the Tiankang team in the Martial Hall on 10,000 Immortals Island. Mid-Golden Core stage cultivation. Li Fan had some knowledge of the Tiankang team. It was one of the 9 teams in the Martial Hall. In the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, matters related to techniques would be handled by the Law Enforcement Hall. For other situations requiring the use of force, the Martial Hall would take charge. The 9 teams were Tianjin, Tiankang, Tianbian, Tianquan, Tianyu, Tianao, Tianzhu, Tianyan, and Tianyang. Except for the Tianjin team, who were responsible for overall coordination and had a slightly higher status, the other teams were of equal standing. I wonder how many members from the Tiankang team will be mobilized for this task. With this thought in mind, Li Fan clicked on the Wanlai Island Beast Clearing Mission Briefing. Wanlai Island was located in the southwestern region of the Kongyun Sea. The island was inhabited by headless beasts. With short lower limbs and stout arms, they crawled on the ground at incredible speed. These beasts had no heads, only a large mouth on their chests. They fed on sound, and as long as they were hungry, they could satiate themselves by simply making sound. With thick skin and the ability to quickly recover from injuries by consuming sound, coupled with their formidable combat power, they posed a substantial threat. Moreover, they reproduced rapidly, and there were no natural enemies on the island. So, they easily dominated the entire Wanlai Island. Feeding on sound, interesting. After roughly understanding the task, Li Fan, in the Tianquan mirror, purchased some formation materials. If he could complete this task only using formations without revealing his true strength, that would be perfect. Li Fan made his preparations for the mission. Early the next morning, Li Fan arrived at the transmission square to wait. It didn't take long before Zhang Zhengji, leading a group of 6 people, slowly approached. "Greetings, fellow Taoist Zhang." Li Fan bowed in salute. "Fellow Taoist Li, you've waited a long time." Zhang Zhengji politely replied, then introduced the 6 people behind him. One of these 6 was also in the mid-golden core stage, while the rest, like Li Fan, were at the late foundation establishment stage. After a bit of small talk, the group used the teleportation formation to reach Huishou Island, the closest island to Wanlai Island. After flying for half a day, a lush island came into view from afar. Those beasts are extremely sensitive to sound. To avoid alerting them, after entering the area ahead, everyone should refrain from speaking. Suppress your breath and communicate using spiritual consciousness. Zhang Zhengji, the leader, instructed. Everyone expressed their understanding. Entering the range of Wanlai Island, the surroundings immediately became silent. The sounds of the waves or wind could not be heard. Silently flying over Wanlai Island, Li Fan looked down at the scene, feeling a bit uneasy. The entire island was packed with headless beasts. Most of them lazily lay on the ground, doing nothing. Even in areas where there was not enough space, they didn't fight. They just piled up on top of each other, forming many small hills. The fur of these beasts was all red. At first glance, the entire surface of Wanlai Island seemed to be covered with moving red fur. Just looking at it made one feel uneasy. Occasionally, 1 or 2 headless beasts felt hungry. They didn't even bother to get up. Just by patting their belly, before the sound could travel far, the large mouths on their torso opened and closed, swallowing everything. Other beasts nearby would also come over, open their mouths, and share the food. Besides eating, they also reproduced. The intense movement often attracted many of their kind to gather and watch. They formed a circle, enclosing the protagonist in the middle, all with mouths wide open, saliva overflowing. The somewhat bizarre scene on Wanlai Island wasn't only unsettling for Li Fan. The 5 foundation establishment cultivators in the Tiankang team also seemed uneasy, evidently witnessing this for the first time. Only Zhang Zhengji and the other golden core cultivator, Du Xingchang, maintained their composure, seemingly accustomed to such scenes. "Let's get started." Zhang Zhengji tossed a purple formation diagram into the air. The purple light spread with the wind and quickly enveloped the entire Wanlai Island. The headless beasts below were completely unaware. A radiant light emanated from Zhang Zhengji, resembling falling snowflakes. Soon after, a blizzard swept across, covering the entire island. Golden core Dharma body. Li Fan watched this scene, his eyes flickering. Having already exchanged for knowledge related to the golden core stage, Li Fan was naturally familiar with this. After reaching the golden core stage, one could use the laws within the golden core to condense a Dharma body. The fusion of the laws into the Dharma body allowed manipulation of a large area through the laws. At this moment, a snowstorm raged. The temperature on Wanlai Island plummeted rapidly. Some headless beasts slowly sensed something amiss and looked around. However, Li Fan and the others suspended high in the air made no sound, and the beasts couldn't find any traces. At the same time, Du Xingchang also took action. In the midst of the swirling snowstorm, red plum blossoms emerged from the ground, blooming proudly. In an instant, the entire Wanlai Island was covered in white snow and red plum blossoms. "Xingchang and I will watch from above. Everyone, go ahead and take action," Zhang Zhengji said. The 5 foundation establishment cultivators of the Tiankang team nodded one after another. Without any hesitation, they rushed towards the headless beasts below. It seems that this is also training for them. Seeing this, Li Fan couldn't openly slack off. So, he quickly caught up and casually set up the shared spirit life-death formation, affecting the 5 foundation establishment cultivators ahead. This shared spirit life-death formation was one of the formations used by Zhang Ziliang during the extermination of Crimson Flame in the 12th life. It amplified attacks and enhanced cooperation between individuals. However, the power of the formation arranged by Li Fan at this moment was weaker by more than 10 times compared to Zhang Ziliang. But for the 5 foundation establishment cultivators, its effectiveness was still enough to have an immediate impact. After that, Li Fan consecutively set up several formations such as the 5 elements Sword Chi formation, the Silk Obstruction formation, and the Spirit Fire Dragon formation. Chapter 187, Formation Battle Against Beasts. After completing all of this, Li Fan's face turned pale, and he was gasping for breath. Please, fellow Taoists, lead these beasts to the formations of setup, Li Fan conveyed through voice transmission. A foundation establishment cultivator named Huan Sui nodded. Fellow Taoist, you've worked hard. We'll take it from here. It was widely known that the path of formations was difficult and obscure, requiring a significant amount of time for study. It's reasonable for proficiency in formations to be inversely proportional to combat strength. Besides, there was no expectation that this external helper could do much. Being able to set up so many effective formations at once was already a pleasant surprise. Huan Sui took out a small drum and struck it forcefully. A roar resembling that of ancient ferocious beasts resonated from the drum, spreading in all directions. On the island, the lazy headless beasts lying on the ground abruptly stood up, turning towards the direction of Li Fan and the others. They pounded their chests, seemingly excited. Like a surging tide, they rushed over one after another. The 5 members of Huan Sui's team stood in formation, facing the approaching wave of beasts without changing their expressions. 5 spiritual weapons simultaneously emerged around them, each taking the form of a differently shaped sword. The sword lights intersected, forming a sword formation. Any beast entering the formation was instantly annihilated by the sword lights. Under the fire dragons of the Spirit Fire Dragon formation, they turned to ashes. The drumbeat continued, acting like a summoning spell, attracting the beasts to come forward and meet their doom. The Tiankang team, like a meat grinder, mercilessly harvested the lives of these creatures. Slowly, the deaths of numerous beasts began to stir unrest among their ranks. They began to counterattack. Roar! The headless beasts pounded their chests, opened their bloody mouths, and let out thunderous roars. Invisible sound waves converged, forming a substantial fist shadow above the island. The red fist shadow rushed towards the sword formation of the 5 people. Bang! Huan Sui and the others simultaneously spat out blood, their faces showing astonishment. The 5 swords trembled slightly, and the formation fell into disarray. Immediately, many red-furred beasts seized the opportunity to break through the blockade and charge towards the 5. Although they were easily slaughtered, the expressions of the 5 cultivators were no longer as relaxed as before. Seeing this, Li Fan knew he couldn't hold back too much. With a serious expression, he took out several beast bones from his storage ring and arranged a new formation. This time, just as the fist shadow composed of the roars of the red-furred beasts was about to form, a series of extremely discordant metallic friction sounds suddenly came from the surroundings, mixing with the roar. Like pure water mixing into muddy water, the roar became unclear, and its power diminished significantly. The fist shadow, composed of the howls of the red-furred beasts, was mixed with the strange noises. It became vague, and its power greatly diminished. It was easily blocked by the sword formation. Huan Sui and the others showed joy. Fellow Taoist, excellent means. However, Li Fan waved his hand, looking pale and seemingly unable to continue with such methods. The scales of victory tilted back towards the Tiankang team. Hundreds of headless beasts were slaughtered one after another. However, their numbers were just too vast. The number of headless beasts slaughtered by the Tiankang team, compared to the total population on the island, was just a drop in the ocean. Perhaps, if they continued like this, with the 5 elements Sword Chi formation supplementing spiritual energy, they could slowly complete the mission given enough time. However, after half a day passed and the death toll reached a certain level, the red-furred beasts discovered that their furious roars were no longer effective. They stopped their howls. Even their relentless charge to their deaths ceased. Seeing this, Huan Sui was puzzled. He continued to beat the small drum, attempting to re-attract the attention of the red-furred beasts, but the previously irresistibly enticing drumbeat now lost its effect. Bang, 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 they stopped their attacks and instead rhythmically pounded their chests. The sound resonated continuously, growing louder. Li Fan sensed that something was amiss. Although he promptly activated the discordant confusion formation he had previously set up to counteract the beasts' roars, the noise didn't have much impact on the grand symphony. Fortunately, Zhang Jingji and Du Xingchang, who had been watching all along, finally stopped standing idly by. Once again, snowflakes drifted down onto the world. The intensity of the coordinated sound was absorbed by the falling snow, abruptly diminishing its power. A strong wind blew, lifting thousands of snow piles and, at the same time, blowing away the red plum petals in full bloom in the snow. The petals danced in the wind like lethal blades. Each time a petal floated past a headless beast, it quietly took away its life. It could be seen that the two mid-stage golden core cultivators, working together, could deal with these instinct-driven red-furred beasts. The beasts had no resistance whatsoever. However, Zhang Jingji and Du Xingchang seemed to restrain themselves. There was no widespread slaughter, they only slightly reduced the power of the red-furred beast's coordinated sound. Furthermore, they didn't completely prevent the beast's ritual. So, amidst the increasingly urgent and loud pounding sounds, the giant shadow of a red-furred beast slowly took shape. The faintly oppressive feeling emanating from the phantom was slightly weaker than Zhang Zhengji's. Golden Core Stage. Li Fan and the Tiankang team's faces turned serious. Although seemingly weaker than a true Golden Core Stage cultivator, it undoubtedly possessed power far beyond the Foundation establishment realm. However, after the Golden Core Beast revealed its form, it didn't immediately launch an attack on Li Fan and the others. Instead, it casually grabbed its weak compatriots from the ground and devoured them voraciously. The countless red-furred beasts on the island, upon witnessing their peers being eaten, not only showed no fear but became excited, emitting strange and joyful cries. The Golden Core Beast devoured its weaker peers without reservation. Gradually, its silhouette became solid. It seemed that, as it consumed more of its own kind, it could complete the transformation from the illusory to the real. Zhang Zhengji and Du Xingchang both had their arms folded over their chests and carried cold and indifferent expressions, silently observing the situation. However, Huan Sui became anxious. If we wait for that beast to solidify, its strength will be comparable to a true Golden Core cultivator. Even if we all unite and fight to the death, we may not necessarily win. Another person chimed in, "That's right, we can't wait any longer." Li Fan also nodded, "I'll set up the current defying formation to assist you all." He then took out formation materials from his storage ring. In a moment, the current defying formation was set up. The Tiankang team's momentum surged suddenly. The formation can only last for about the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn. Li Fan, looking pale and feeble, said without much strength. It seemed that his mental energy consumption was extremely high. Huan Sui and the others exchanged glances and nodded. "If we can't defeat that beast, even if we can save our lives, we'll lose the qualification for promotion. There is no retreat, the only way out is to fight. Kill." The 5 people had determined expressions, relying on each other and piercing forward like a sharp sword. Fiercely, they stabbed towards the Golden Core Beast. Chapter 188. White Snow Falls on Red Plum Blossoms. The 5 Foundation establishment cultivators from the Martial Hall successfully drew the attention of the majority of the red-haired beasts. Li Fan took advantage of the situation, hiding within the Spirit Fire Dragon formation, leisurely watching the intense battle unfolding on the island. The 5 sword-like Foundation treasures alternated in attacking, resembling a sharp drill that turned all the obstructing beasts into minced meat. Facing the rapidly advancing Tiankang team, the gigantic Golden Core Beast remained indifferent, seemingly unfazed. However, it accelerated the speed of its consumption in response. Along the way, the red-haired beasts, in a frenzied manner, used their bodies to form a defensive line at any cost to obstruct the Tiankang team. These beasts possessed the strength of the Foundation establishment stage. Waves after waves of the beast tide surged forward, and although the Tiankang team's swords were sharp, their progress unavoidably slowed down. They initially relied on their unstoppable momentum. Now, with their momentum obstructed and slowed, the pressure increased sharply as they faced seemingly endless red-haired beasts. In this critical moment, Huan Sui angrily shouted, "Change formation." In an instant, the other 4 people stood behind Huan Sui, infusing all their spiritual energy into his body. The 5 swords gradually merged into one amidst a dazzling light. Combined, the 5 swords' power surged. Sword chi sliced across the ground, easily carving a deep trench into the earth in front of them. The red-haired beasts obstructing their way dissolved in the sword light. Within moments, the giant sword arrived in front of the golden core beast. At this point, having consumed a large number of its kind, the upper half of the golden core beast had completed the transformation from phantom to real. However, the sword light had already approached, and it had no chance to further enhance its strength. Reluctantly thumping its chest, the golden core beast then extended its sturdy arms and tightly gripped the giant sword about to slash its head. The giant sword erupted in a dazzling light, attempting to break free. However, on the claws of the golden core beast, there was a wisp of black chi. Like an extremely tenacious silk thread, it firmly entwined the sword. The beast's bloody mouth suddenly opened, emitting a strange and horrifying roar. The sword light dimmed abruptly. As if crushed by an invisible force, the sword body became distorted. Change. Huan Sui's voice sounded again. The sword light disintegrated, becoming 5 separate swords once more. The golden core beast's hands were left empty. The Tiankang team reappeared in different positions, each wielding a different sword. Simultaneously, they struck the golden core beast. Roar. The beast emitted a painful howl. Although there was no blood, its figure became somewhat illusory. Using both arms, it deflected the 5 swords. It then swung a fist violently in the direction of where one of the Foundation establishment cultivators was. However, before the shockwave of the punch could get close to that cultivator, the formation transformed once again. The 5 of them regrouped in one place and appeared behind the Jindan beast. This time, it was a different person who took the lead. The 5 swords joined in one attack. They ruthlessly chopped at the back of the beast. Suddenly suffering a heavy blow, the golden core beast stumbled and was almost knocked to the ground. Both of its arms flailed, attempting to block the sword light. It then grabbed a handful of its own kind and threw them into its mouth to recover from its injuries. However, the Tiankang team did not engage it head-on. After a moment, the 5 individuals separated once again, appearing from different directions and leaving 5 new wounds on the beast. In this way, the Tiankang team continuously weakened the strength of the golden core beast through their constantly shifting formation. Although the beast possessed great physical strength, it could do nothing but passively endure the attacks, watching helplessly as its injuries gradually worsened. In its rage, the red fur on the beast's body stood on end. After another heavy blow from the united sword attacks, its anger finally reached an extreme. The red fur seemed to come alive in an instant, growing wildly. The giant beast tore off a large chunk of its own fur and threw it into the air. This twisted red fur emitted an ominous aura, then, like distorted tentacles, continuously extended. The giant core beast didn't stop tearing off its fur, and around it, the red fur strands were like strands of silk, connecting and intertwining. Whenever the sword lights accidentally touched the hairs, the sword lights were captured and needed considerable effort to break free. With the growth of the red fur, the space available for the Tiankang team to maneuver became smaller and smaller. The interval between their attacks grew longer and longer. On the other hand, with the red fur as protection, the golden core beast became more and more comfortable. No longer concerned about the sword light's assault, it not only launched attacks but also casually threw its incoming kin into its mouth to enhance its strength. It seems the situation is a bit unfavorable. Incinerating a red-haired beast attempting to approach stealthily, Li Fan, who was observing from a distance, frowned, wondering whether he should lend a helping hand. At this moment, Zhang Zhengji's voice came from above. Do you know where you went wrong? The moment that beast became visible, you guys should have attacked with all your might instead of hesitating until it devoured a large number of red-haired beasts and underwent a qualitative change in strength. During a life-and-death battle, even a moment of hesitation can lead to failure. After it entered the golden core stage, the outcome of this mission was already determined. Although the Tiankang formation is powerful, this golden core beast has nearly endless kin as food, and will only become stronger as the battle goes on. On the other hand, your strength will only weaken. However, unexpectedly, under your mutual cooperation, you forced it into its red-furred form, which is beyond my expectations. It seems your usual practice hasn't been in vain. This time, you guys barely pass. Huan Sui and the others, hearing Zhang Zhengji's words, first showed a hint of embarrassment. But then, upon hearing that they passed the mission, they couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Before Zhang Zhengji's words settled, he appeared above the golden core beast. The beast sensed the danger and was about to react. But it was too late. The drifting snow in the sky rapidly flew towards the beast. The blizzard covered the sky, completely enveloping the beast in an instant. In a moment, the beast was tightly wrapped. A somewhat comical giant snowman appeared under Zhang Zhengji's feet. Initially, the beast inside the snowman wanted to struggle, but as the snow piled up thicker, its movements became weaker. Eventually, it completely lost the power to resist. As the golden core beast was sealed by the heavy snow, the twisted red fur around it squirmed, attempting to rescue it. However, the countless red plum blossoms on the island scattered in the wind. The red plum blossoms, like knives, continuously cut these red strands relentlessly and endlessly. The divided red strands were split into fragments, and fell under a red plum tree. The petals, carrying the red fur, gradually withered. Turning into dust, they were absorbed by the red plum tree. Only fragrance was left in the world. Zhang Zhengji looked at the red plum tree with admiration and gently stepped forward onto the head of the snowman. The giant snowman then slowly shrank. In the end, it turned into a palm-sized miniature model, which Zhang Zhengji collected. In the blink of an eye, amidst the astonished expressions of Huan Sui and others, the golden core beast that left the Tiankang team helpless was effortlessly captured. The immense gap between the mid-golden core stage and the foundation establishment stage was evident. Chapter 189, Immortal Ancestor. The golden core beast was subdued by the joint efforts of Zhang Zhengji and Du Xingchang. The red-haired beasts on Wanlai Island finally showed a hint of fear. They began to flee in the distance. Some even attempted to jump into the sea to escape this place. However, the formation previously arranged by Zhang Zhengji had completely sealed off Wanlai Island. Kill, Zhang Zhengji commanded, and the Tiankang team once again ruthlessly and efficiently slaughtered. At this point, Li Fan appeared to have completed his rest, activating the Spirit Fire Dragon formation. Occasionally, he swung a faint blue sword light, reaping the lives of the red-haired beasts. This time, there were no unexpected twists. Half a day later, at sunset, only a quarter of the red-haired beasts on Wanlai Island remained after the ruthless slaughter. Stop. At this moment, Zhang Zhengji finally spoke again. As the snow began to fall again, he once again used the method he employed to capture the golden core beast, turning most of the remaining red-haired beasts on the island into tiny snowmen. He then collected them, and it was unclear where he stored them. This mission went relatively smoothly. "We can return to the island," he said calmly. The exhausted 5-person squad sighed with relief. Li Fan also appeared to be exhausted. "Much thanks to you this time. If it weren't for your crucial formations, I doubt they could have successfully passed the test," Zhang Zhengji said politely to Li Fan on the way back. Li Fan looked apologetic. The entire process was carried out by the fellow Taoists from the martial hall. "I merely arranged some formations and didn't actually kill many beasts." Zhang Zhengji smiled. "That's how a formation master should act. I see that your proficiency in formations is not weak. Although it doesn't compare to those masters, its impact in actual combat is enormous. Especially the discordant confusion formation, it's truly wonderful." Li Fan shook his head. "Your praise is too much. It was just a moment of inspiration." Then, he asked curiously, "Fellow Taoist, have you participated in dozens of these clearance missions? Could it be that these red-haired beasts have some special value? Otherwise, why not just wipe them out in one go?" Zhang Zhengji nodded. "Your guess is correct. These red-haired beasts do have some uses. I previously captured a large batch alive because of this reason, instead of completely exterminating them. The 10,000 Immortals Alliance headquarters has a task that requires various regions to collect and submit a certain quantity of treasures and beasts capable of absorbing sound each year. These red-haired beasts feed on sound, and although they are a bit weak, their large numbers meet the headquarters' mission requirements perfectly. The headquarters is quite satisfied with the sound-absorbing effect of these red-haired beasts. The quantity we need to submit every year has been increasing." Speaking up to this point, Zhang Zhengji's face showed a sense of accomplishment. But these red-haired beasts don't have natural enemies, and they have no lack of food. Their reproduction is too fast. Coupled with their ability to devour their own kind to evolve, if the numbers get too high, there's no guarantee that a nascent soul-level monster won't emerge. That would be troublesome. To avoid this situation, we need to regularly clear the beasts on the island." Zhang Zhengji explained with a smile. "So, the number of these red-haired beasts should neither be too high nor too low." Li Fan nodded slowly and muttered to himself. He seemed to recall something, slightly raising his head to look at the sky, then falling into contemplation. Silence prevailed as they traveled back. When the group safely returned to 10,000 Immortals Island, Li Fan bid farewell to everyone. Back in the Tianquan mirror, he added Du Xingcheng and others as friends. Sitting cross-legged inside the Tianquan mirror, Li Fan's brows furrowed deeply. He recalled the time during the 12th life when, due to the breakthrough loaning business, a large number of Foundation establishment cultivators emerged prematurely. This somehow attracted the pursuit of Dao integration cultivators. There must not be too many cultivators because the new method is to plunder the heavens and earth. If the number of cultivators is allowed to expand recklessly, the resources of heaven and earth will deplete. Then why must there not be too few cultivators? If one has already achieved immortality, why bother about ants? The establishment of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance and even the creation of the 5 Elders Association are for the purpose of intentionally raising cultivators. The red-haired beasts are useful to the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, so it is necessary to ensure a certain number of them. What use do cultivators have for the immortal ancestor of the Xuanwang realm? Before crossing over, Li Fan had heard that beneath the immortal ancestor, everyone was like ants. The immortal ancestor was high above and saw all things as mere cattle and dogs. The life and death of all things in the world did not enter the eyes of the immortal ancestor. Even if a great calamity occurred and all living beings suffered, the immortal ancestor remained indifferent and unconcerned. So why did the immortal ancestors of the Xuanwang realm need a certain number of cultivators? After the endless slaughter brought about by different cultivation methods, on a wasteland of cultivation, why did the immortal ancestors who had achieved longevity create the 10,000 Immortals Alliance? Out of compassion, or, in an instant, several different answers flashed through Li Fan's mind. But obviously, at this moment, none of them could be verified. They could only be deeply hidden in his heart, and could only be confirmed in the future. After calming down his turbulent emotions, Li Fan checked his permission level. The reward for clearing the mission of exterminating the red-haired beasts was a lower-grade second-level merit. The actual increase in permission level was 2.6. With just this one mission completed, Li Fan's permission level had risen to 3, with an additional 60% progress. It seems that in the early stages, increasing permission level is quite easy. Li Fan then checked the newly appeared cultivation methods. Unfortunately, he still hadn't found one that could split the mind into multiple tasks. In the following period, Li Fan accepted and completed 2 more merit tasks. One was an upper-grade 3rd-level merit, and the other was a lower-grade 2nd-level merit. The process of completing the missions was very smooth, without any twists. While getting to know many members within the system of 10,000 Immortals Island, Li Fan's permission level increased to 5. The quota for accepting merit tasks 3 times a year was used up, but he still hadn't found a suitable cultivation method. It seems that even with the limitless derivation of the Yanfa Ju within the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, the ability to multitask is still a very precious technique. I wonder at what permission level it will appear on the exchange list. The detailed information on techniques available for exchange at higher permission levels is confidential and cannot be easily disseminated. The higher the permission level, the higher the confidentiality. If accidentally leaked, it can result in deduction of your merit or even being held accountable and killed. If not for this, I could have asked others for information to at least have an idea. Now, I can only wait for another opportunity to try and raise my permission level as much as possible. During this time, the situation at Tian Island guarded by Zhou Qingong remained normal. However, Li Fan was very patient. He believed that before the arrival of the Crimson Flame, Zhou Qingong would definitely reveal his true colors. Chapter 190, The Show Begins. On this day, Li Fan received a message from Zhang Ziliang, asking him to come to the formation hall. After obtaining the position of formation repairer, Li Fan had not been engaged in any official tasks. Presumably, Zhang Ziliang had been busy researching the mountain and river formation on that recently emerged island, and that was why he hadn't contacted Li Fan. With the sudden summons, Li Fan did not delay. He changed into a black and yellow robe and proceeded to the formation hall. With his new status within the system, the 7-colored immortal felling formation above his head ignored Li Fan as he entered the central core area. Walking into the oblique cube-shaped building, the small cube body seemed to recognize Li Fan's identity, automatically activating. After a moment, Li Fan was brought into the space where Zhang Ziliang was. This place was extremely familiar to Li Fan. In the 11th life, he had spent several years here, tirelessly researching formations day and night, which led him to officially step into the path of formations. Looking ahead, Zhang Ziliang stood with his back to him, motionless. "Greetings, senior," Li Fan spoke and bowed. Zhang Ziliang seemed as if he hadn't heard, remaining unmoved. Seeing this, Li Fan repeated his greeting. As if there was a long delay, after a considerable amount of time, Zhang Ziliang finally turned around. "Oh, you are here." Li Fan immediately discerned that the figure before him should be some kind of clone or projection. However, he still inquired, "Senior, has the research on the mountain and river formation concluded?" After a while, Zhang Ziliang's intermittent voice sounded. "Not yet. The research on the mountain and river formation is at a critical juncture. It's even more complicated than imagined. It's estimated to take another year or two to finish. Brother Li seems to have something urgent, so you left in haste. I also suddenly remembered that since you joined, I haven't taught you any formations. Now, in this situation, I can't spare the time. But if I postpone it for another 1 or 2 years, it wouldn't be justifiable. So, I will provide you with relevant formation information first. You can study on your own. If you have any doubts, I'll answer them one by one when I return." He spoke in a disjointed manner, and it took quite a while to finish this sentence. After saying this, Zhang Ziliang handed over a storage ring. Li Fan took the storage ring, and with a sweep of his divine sense, he was not unfamiliar with the contents inside. Encrypted jade slips and hard monkey bones. Previously, you managed to grasp the basics of formations through self-study. Your talent should be not bad. The encrypted jade slip inside this storage ring is a carefully compiled summary of the basics of formation. Study it attentively and cross-reference it with what you've learned. After reading it thoroughly, your proficiency in formations should see a significant improvement. After giving this last piece of advice, Zhang Ziliang's figure vanished without a sound. Li Fan stored the ring and returned to the Tianshuan mirror. Taking out the encrypted jade slip, he carefully read it. He found that it was similar to what Zhang Ziliang had taught him in the previous life, but with many additional examples of formations. For instance, the current Guardian formation of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, the Heavenly Origin Vitality Formation. Unlike the defensive mountains and rivers formation from 3,000 years ago, the present Heavenly Origin Vitality Formation emphasized both offense and defense. It also had the effect of absorbing the vitality of ordinary people within the formation to enhance the concentration of spiritual energy. Although the core structural data of the Heavenly Origin Vitality Formation was not included in the Jade Slip, there were still diagrams of some nodes of the formation. From these details, Li Fan could glimpse the vastness and intricacy of the Heavenly Origin Vitality Formation. In the Jade Slip, Zhang Ziliang also left some reminders. The content of this grand formation was an absolute secret of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance and must not be leaked. Apart from the Heavenly Origin Vitality Formation, the Jade Slip also analyzed many other formations that Li Fan had never seen before, such as the Greenwood Spirit Gathering Formation, and the Soaring Immortal 5 Thunder Formation, broadening Li Fan's horizons. However, these formations were profound and extremely intricate. Li Fan merely skimmed through them briefly without delving too deep. Because now, he had something else to do. Putting down the Jade Slip, Li Fan checked the price of the Spirit Mist Grass. Previously, Zhang Ziliang mentioned that he Zhenghao, who was engrossed in researching the mountain and river formation, hastily left without caring for anything else. Li Fan speculated that something might have happened, likely the attack of the dragon whale on the island cultivating Spirit Mist Grass. Considering the time, it should be about right. Sure enough, the price of Spirit Mist Grass had recently experienced a slight increase. It went up from 18 contribution points per plant to 19 points. Li Fan currently had a stock of 2,700 plants on hand, so there was no rush to sell them now. After all, it would take some time for the news to spread, the incident to escalate, and the price of Spirit Mist Grass to skyrocket to 25 points. A price of 25 points is still too low. Perhaps I can stir the pot a bit. However, it's not appropriate for the main body to intervene. It's time to use the clone. Li Fan's eyes flickered. The clone, who had been quietly running errands on 10,000 Immortals Island and barely maintaining what he needed to survive, activated a concealing form talisman to hide its cultivation and appearance. It arrived at the 1,000-mile hall. The entrance to the shop was deserted, with no customers in sight. Zhao Shuyuan lay lazily behind the counter, resting with closed eyes. As soon as Li Fan entered, Zhao Shuyuan bounced up, wearing a respectful expression. Finally, a customer. What would you like? Formations, talismans, spiritual weapons, and elixirs, we have it all, and discounts are available for bulk purchases. Li Fan chuckled. I heard that Senior Zhao has quite a few flawed concealing form talismans eliminated from the Talisman Hall. Zhao Shuyuan playfully smiled. There are indeed many concealing form talismans, but where I got them from is a secret. How many do you want, fellow Taoist? How many do I want? I actually want to buy all the concealing form talismans fellow Taoist has. Li Fan was halfway through his sentence before Zhao Shuyuan's face lit up with excitement. But I'm short on contribution points. He sighed, changing the topic. Zhao Shuyuan's face turned black, and he spoke in an unfriendly tone. You scoundrel, are you trying to mock me? But then he furrowed his brows, somewhat puzzled. Why do you need so many concealing form talismans? One person should only need to have a few on hand. Li Fan smiled faintly. This is the reason I came to fellow Taoist Zhao. Seeing that Zhao Shuyuan was interested, Li Fan temporarily kept him in suspense, remaining silent. Zhao Shuyuan sneered. Are you trying to whet my appetite? Who knows if what you're saying is true or false? If you don't want to say it, forget it. Li Fan didn't get angry but smiled, then turned and walked away without any hesitation. As he walked, he sighed. They say Zhao Shuyuan of 1,000-Mile Hall never engages in losing deals. I thought his business acumen was extraordinary, but it seems to be nothing special. Shaking his head, Li Fan, with one foot already out of the 1,000-Mile Hall's main door, thought, wait. Wait. At this moment, Zhao Shuyuan shouted, stopping him. Enthusiastically pulling Li Fan back, he closed the shop's door. Zhao Shuyuan rubbed his hands. Although I know you are using provocative tactics, I am willingly falling for it. He looked greedy, because I smell the scent of a business opportunity. Chapter 191, Economic Bubble. Smell a business opportunity. What does that mean? Li Fan looked at Zhao Shuyuan with interest and asked. Zhao Shuyuan looked pleased. Just like those who can intuitively sense danger, I, Zhao Shuyuan, have been able to effortlessly find the path to uncountable profits from countless complicated and useless information since childhood. It's pure instinct. Others can only envy me. He glanced at Li Fan again. Just as fellow Taoist Li was leaving a moment ago, I felt an immense sense of loss. It was as if I saw a large amount of contribution points leaving me. My heart was bleeding. So, I am certain that what fellow Taoist Li said is true. Zhao Shuyuan concluded. Li Fan was a bit surprised that he indeed had such talent. However, recalling his previous interactions with Zhao Shuyuan, Li Fan nodded slowly. In that case, what price is fellow Taoist willing to offer? Zhao Shuyuan pondered for a moment and made a 3 with his fingers. What does this mean? 3,000 contribution points. Li Fan looked for a while but couldn't understand its representation, asking in confusion. Zhao Shuyuan said solemnly, 30%. Fellow Taoist Li will receive 30% of the profits brought by this piece of information. Li Fan squinted, somewhat incredulous. So generous. Zhao Shuyuan smiled. Fellow Taoist Li is not a businessman after all and doesn't understand the true value of timely information. Under specific circumstances, a piece of information be profitable 100 or 1,000 times over. 30% of the profit is hardly a huge cost compared to 1,000 times return. Li Fan couldn't help but applaud. Fellow Taoist speaks the truth. However, words alone are not enough. How can I ensure that fellow Taoist won't turn back on the agreement later? Zhao Shuyuan chuckled. It seems fellow Taoist Li is not familiar with the ways of business. There are rules in business. He took out a golden foil paper from somewhere and quickly wrote down the terms. After showing it to Li Fan for confirmation, he unhesitatingly wrote down his own name. Fellow Taoist, please. He handed the foil paper to Li Fan. Li Fan carefully read it and finally wrote down the name of his clone, Lin Fan. The golden foil paper instantly turned into 3 copies. 2 flew towards Zhao Shuyuan and Li Fan, while the other soared into the sky, heading to an unknown destination. After a moment, Li Fan felt an inexplicable force descending onto his clone. This force constrained and bound the clone, requiring it to fulfill the agreed-upon terms on the golden foil paper. It was as if it had become the will of the clone itself, and there was no turning back. One would actively fulfill the agreement. The power to change mental cognition. Sensing the inexplicable changes in his mind, the clone was suddenly startled. However, Li Fan's main body, which was located within the Tianquan mirror, was unaffected. The sun-stealing technique is truly ingenious. Relieved, Li Fan silently praised. On the clone's side, coerced by the golden foil paper, it immediately revealed the news that the Spirit Mist Grass Island might have been attacked by a dragon whale, resulting in the destruction of all Spirit Mist Grass. The Spirit Mist Grass Island was destroyed. Zhao Shuyuan's eyes, upon hearing this, shined with greed. Fellow Taoist, wait a moment. Let me investigate. He closed his eyes. After a while, he opened his eyes abruptly, excitedly pacing back and forth. The news is accurate. Spirit Mist Grass Island in the Kongyun Sea is one of the largest cultivation sites for Spirit Mist Grass. At least 1/5 of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance's Spirit Mist Grass comes from there. Now, with all the Spirit Mist Grass on the island destroyed, the price of Spirit Mist Grass will inevitably soar in a short time. The prices of secondary products like Concealing Form Talisman will also skyrocket. Suddenly, he paused, furrowing his brows. However, after all, it's only used from Foundation Establishment to Golden Core, and Spirit Mist Grass is still grown elsewhere. Even if the price rises, it will likely increase by at most half. Compared to the business opportunity I detected, it falls far short. What exactly is the problem? After thinking for a long time, he couldn't find an answer. Zhao Shuyuan instantly became somewhat irritable. An unsettling aura began to emanate from him. Li Fan, listening to Zhao Shuyuan's muttering, was also lost in thought. He recalled various anecdotes he had heard in his previous life. He Zhenghao and a small group of people were gearing up to take advantage of this opportunity and make a big profit. After the price of Spirit Mist Grass rose, it immediately attracted more people to follow suit. With all the clues strung together, Li Fan suddenly understood. He patted Zhao Shuyuan's shoulder and said in a deep voice, "This business opportunity is not about Spirit Mist Grass, it's about people." Zhao Shuyuan was slightly stunned, his eyes initially filled with a bit of confusion. Then he instantly became clear-minded and exclaimed, "Fellow Taoists' words have awakened me. Indeed, the profit lies in people, not the grass." While enlightening Zhao Shuyuan, Li Fan's main body in the Tianshuan mirror also started buying Spirit Mist Grass. Unfortunately, there were only a little over 2,000 contribution points left, which was barely enough. At this moment, Zhao Shuyuan's aura changed. He no longer had the previous wretched appearance and instead carried an inexplicable dominance. "Profits come from manipulating people, and I must act as the master," he declared. No visible actions were taken, but in an instant, Li Fan saw the price of Spirit Mist Grass skyrocketing at a visible speed. 19, 20, 21. In an instant, the price of Spirit Mist Grass surged to 22 points. The 1,000-mile haul is spread across the cultivation world. Li Fan's eyelids twitched. Zhao Shuyuan, it seemed, was not exaggerating previously. However, Zhao Shuyuan's actions had just begun. "Now that I am the master, I invite all the guests to take their seats," he declared with a deep, low laugh. Subsequently, as if entering a deep sleep, he remained motionless. For a while, the 1,000-mile hall fell into silence. Li Fan, however, knew what he was doing. Zhao Shuyuan was undoubtedly using his countless puppets spread throughout the cultivation world to vigorously spread the news of the destruction of the Spirit Mist Grass Island. It would take time for the matter to ferment, and patience was the key. Just then, an extremely excited message from He Zhenghao arrived. "Fellow Taoist Li Fan, do you still remember when I told you before that I would lead you to make a fortune? Now the opportunity has come. I've received accurate information that the island where Spirit Mist Grass is cultivated has been attacked by beasts. All the Spirit Mist Grass on the island has been destroyed. The price of Spirit Mist Grass is bound to soar. Don't believe me? Look, in a short time, it has already risen from 18 points to 22 points. But it's okay, it will definitely rise even more. Don't miss the opportunity, fellow Taoist, act quickly." A mysterious smile appeared at the corner of Li Fan's mouth as he quickly replied, "Thank you, fellow Taoist I've gone all in." When the bubble appeared, everyone understood that this bubble would burst with a single touch. However, in the face of enormous profits, everyone lost their sanity and threw themselves into it. As Zhao Shuyuan's countless puppets began to act, a piece of news spread throughout the immortal cultivation world. And as it spread, it gradually became known to everyone. The price of Spirit Mist Grass would rise. Thus, the bubble began its first expansion. Chapter 192, The Dealer Enters the Game. In the 12th life, only a small group of people, including He Zhenghao, were the first to learn that the Spirit Mist Grass Island had been destroyed, and subsequently, they prepared to speculate on this opportunity. From beginning to end, the impact of the spirit mist grass incident was limited to a few areas. However, in this era, when the puppet master changed from the Greenwood rebirthed True Lord in the 12th life to Zhao Shuyuan, whose cultivation level was unknown but whose business spread throughout the entire cultivation world, there was a significant change in the situation. Countless puppets acted as propaganda machines, spreading the news of the destruction of the spirit mist grass island through various channels, quietly propagating throughout the entire Xuanwang realm in half a day. Even if only 1% of the cultivators who heard this news had speculative thoughts, and among those who had such thoughts, only 1% took action, it was still an extremely large number. Moreover, in the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, where accumulating contribution points through ordinary means was quite difficult, such an obvious opportunity to make a big profit attracted a considerable number of cultivators who were not willing to miss out. So, in reality, the number of cultivators involved in speculating on spirit mist grass far exceeded this number. Although most cultivators were not very affluent, they could still afford 1 or 2 spirit mist grass. With the hope of making a profit, numerous cultivators, in the fastest possible time, rushed back into the Tianshuan mirror, competing to buy spirit mist grass. Therefore, half a day after He Zhenghao sent a message to Li Fan. The price of spirit mist grass rose from 22 contribution points per plant to 35 points. This was 10 points higher than the peak price of 25 points in the 12th life. Furthermore, the upward trend showed no sign of ending. Excited messages from He Zhenghao continued to come. Haha, fellow Taoist Li Fan, I was right, wasn't I? The price of spirit mist grass will definitely rise again. In just half a day, it has risen by 50%, and I've recovered all my previous losses. Fellow Taoist, remember, don't sell the spirit mist grass in your hands now. The news of the reduction in the production of spirit mist grass has now spread like wildfire outside. I don't know how many cultivators are joining the buying frenzy. We all agree that it's far from the time to sell. At least, it will rise another 50%. Ha ha ha, I'm about to purchase my nascent soul technique. He Zhenghao was extremely excited. Li Fan replied perfunctorily, praising him with a few words. However, his attention was focused on his clone. Fellow Taoist Zhao, I think the price has already risen a lot. Can we cash out now? Looking at the steadily rising numbers in the Tianshuan mirror in front of him, Li Fan tentatively asked. Zhao Shuyuan's face showed little excitement. He closed his eyes and sensed for a moment, then shook his head, no, it's not time yet. There are still greater variables yet to come. Just wait patiently. Greater variables. Li Fan paced back and forth in the 1,000-mile hall, constantly pondering in his mind. According to common sense, the price of spirit mist grass has already risen to a very high level. I don't know what this so-called variable is. But Li Fan knew that with the existence of the 5-element subworlds, no matter how high the price of spirit mist grass rose, the final outcome would surely be a plummet to the ground. Even if he didn't have time to cash out, at most, he would lose 10,000 contribution points. He could easily earn it back, so he was completely calm as he watched the situation develop. Like Li Fan, many others decided to wait patiently. For example, the Greenwood rebirthed True Lord. He held nearly 10,000 spirit mist grass plants cultivated in his own cave. Some time ago, he accidentally heard that the Alliance headquarters seemed to have discovered a super large-scale wood attribute subworld. There were countless spiritual plants and herbs inside. He feared that the price of spirit mist grass would plummet in the future. So, he began to systematically sell the spirit mist grass in his hands. Although he tried to slow down the sale as much as possible, suppressing the price fluctuations to within the usual range, the price of spirit mist grass still uncontrollably dropped from the higher price of 21 points to the historical low of 18 points. Greenwood rebirthed True Lord instantly realized that he was definitely not the only one who knew this information. However, for the sake of their own interests, everyone tacitly chose to slowly release their goods, preventing the price from collapsing too suddenly. Just as Greenwood rebirthed True Lord had sold more than half of the 10,000 spirit mist grass plants, he suddenly realized that the price of spirit mist grass had not only stopped falling abruptly but also began a large-scale rebound. Before he could react, the price had risen back to its previous level. This anomaly indicated something unusual. Greenwood rebirthed True Lord immediately mobilized his connections and found the possible cause of the incident. The spirit mist grass island was destroyed, and the spirit mist grass cultivated on the island was annihilated. The keen Greenwood rebirthed True Lord immediately realized that this was a rare opportunity. So, he decisively switched from selling to buying, repurchasing all the spirit mist grass he had previously sold. Although he suffered a loss in the process, the price of spirit mist grass quickly skyrocketed further. In a single stroke, he turned losses into gains. The fierceness of this upward trend made Greenwood Rebirth True Lord feel both surprised and a little anxious. Greenwood Rebirth True Lord, who focused on planting various spiritual plants, understood spirit mist grass better than most cultivators in the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. The price of 35 points clearly exceeded its inherent value. Not to mention the existence of the wood attribute cave, spirit mist grass would surely eventually plummet naturally. However, Greenwood Rebirth True Lord, who had decided to sell the over 10,000 spirit mist grass in his possession, hesitated as he watched the seemingly endless rise in its price. Maybe, let's wait another moment. This sudden surge is obviously abnormal. There are traces of many people pushing it behind the scenes. Perhaps, it will rise a little more. Once the thought arose, it was impossible to let it go. After all, for Greenwood Rebirth True Lord, every single increase in the price of spirit mist grass meant an additional 10,000 contribution points. Even for a nascent soul True Lord, obtaining over 10,000 contributions was not so easy. In his daily efforts to care for these spirit mist grass plants, Greenwood Rebirth True Lord had truly spared no effort, wasting a lot of energy. Working tirelessly, he could only earn a few tens of thousands of contribution points for his hard work. Yet now, in the blink of an eye, he easily obtained a similar profit. The young Greenwood Rebirth True Lord, at this moment, still didn't understand the principle that a floating profit is not a real profit. Faced with the rapidly growing wealth on the account, Greenwood Rebirth True Lord was lost. He decided that when the price of spirit mist grass rose a bit more, he would sell the spirit mist grass in his hands. With the news of the discovery of the wood attribute cave, the prices of spiritual plants will definitely decrease in the future. Earning contributions will also become more and more difficult. The opportunity is rare. If I don't take advantage of this opportunity to make a final profit, I will definitely regret it later. Watching the price continue to rise, Greenwood Rebirth True Lord gradually became obsessed. He easily convinced himself. Chapter 193, Profit Without Capital. In the 12th life, the mastermind behind the speculation of spirit mist grass was Greenwood Rebirth True Lord. However, in this life, he abandoned his role as the mastermind and entered the game for personal gain. There were many behind-the-scenes players with the same mindset as Greenwood Rebirth True Lord. Under the influence of these individuals, the price of spirit mist grass, after briefly stabilizing at 35 points, began its second surge. On the second day of the event, the price skyrocketed to 50 points at one point. Then it dropped to 45 points, fluctuating between 45 to 50 points. The fact that the price of spirit mist grass more than doubled in a short period became a topic of discussion among many cultivators. They were excited, and in their conversations, it seemed as if the price of spirit mist grass would at least rise to 100 points. Gradually, many latecomers, who were inevitably attracted, began to participate. Under this influence, on the third day, the price of spirit mist grass successfully broke through the 50-point mark, soaring to 54 points. In the 1,000-mile hall of the 10,000 Immortals Island. Fellow Taoist Zhao, can we take action now? Li Fan asked again. Zhao Shuyuan's eyes were filled with greed, and he shook his head vigorously. No, not yet. Right now, spirit mist grass is still spirit mist grass. The real profit will come when spirit mist grass is no longer just spirit mist grass. It's close. I feel that we're just a step away. On the other side, He Zhenghao shared the same opinion as Zhao Shuyuan. Fellow Taoist Li Fan, remember, firmly hold on to spirit mist grass. Don't believe those who say its price will crash. Those are rumors spread by people who haven't joined the fray yet, trying to lower the price. Trust my judgment, the price of spirit mist grass will rise again. As if confirming their words, in the following days, the price of spirit mist grass continued to rise. It reached 66 points. In the Tianquan mirror, Li Fan shook his head. It seems that we are just a spark away from real madness. Of course, the bubble could burst at any moment. Li Fan looked at the 2,900 spirit mist grass in his hands and decisively chose to sell 1,000. At this moment, Li Fan discovered another advantage of being in the 10,000 Immortals Alliance system. According to the permission level, he could sell goods at the actual market price a certain number of times each year. At permission level 5 in the system, he could do it 3 times a year. So, at 66 points of contribution, Li Fan sold the spirit mist grass, gaining 66,000 contributions instantly. Li Fan remained calm and continued to observe how the situation would evolve. When the price of spirit mist grass reached 69 points, the upward trend was finally restrained. Some enthusiasts also began to feel that the price of spirit mist grass had indeed been pushed too high. There was a risk of collapse. So, like Li Fan, they chose to secure their gains and tried to advise their fellow Taoists to stay rational. The price did decrease a bit due to this, but it was quickly pushed back up by more speculative cultivators. However, it never broke through the barrier of 69 points. The bulls and bears engaged in fierce battles, lasting for 5 or 6 days without a clear winner. Just when the situation reached a deadlock, an unexpected turn of events occurred, much to Li Fan's surprise. The variable that Zhao Shuyuan mentioned had truly arrived. On this day, the slightly insane messages of Zhao Shuyuan and He Zhenghao came simultaneously. Ha ha ha, fellow Taoist Li Fan, how's my foresight? The price of spirit mist grass is going to soar to the sky. It's here, the real opportunity for tens of times the profit has finally arrived. Li Fan was awakened from his cultivation and glanced at the price of spirit mist grass. Suddenly, he thought he had seen it wrong. 135 points per plant. Li Fan was stunned and looked again. 166 points per plant. Moreover, this number was increasing rapidly. How can this be? Li Fan was bewildered. He quickly inquired. Zhao Shuyuan and He Zhenghao, one after another, gave the answer. Both of them spoke with excitement, their voices trembling slightly. Just now, the news came. Hidden Dragon Abyss, Misty Phoenix City, and Kangmung Island. These major cultivation sites for spirit mist grass within the 10,000 Immortals Alliance were simultaneously attacked by unidentified cultivators. All the cultivated spirit mist grass was destroyed. These people are crazy, they even completely destroyed the special environments designed to grow spirit mist grass in those places. This means that, for a long time, there won't be any new spirit mist grass growing in the entire 10,000 Immortals Alliance. These people really dare. Li Fan couldn't help but fall silent. He couldn't help but recall the well-known words of wisdom from before he crossed over. For 10% profit, all people will be attracted. For 20% profit, people become active. For 50% profit, people become daring. For 100% profit, people will subvert the law. For 300% profit, people will dare to commit any crime, even risking execution. Even in a different world, it was still the same. Moreover, at this moment, it was not just a threefold profit. The news of the simultaneous attacks on cultivation sites instantly ignited the price of spirit mist grass. In just the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, it rose from over 160 points to 212 points. Furthermore, it was still rising without a limit. Cultivators who had previously sold spirit mist grass at over 60 points, in their remorse, tearfully bought it again. Seeing the price of spirit mist grass soaring upward again, cultivators who already had spirit mist grass but were still wealthy couldn't help but want to buy again. For a moment, in the Tianquan mirror, the price of spirit mist grass once again irrationally skyrocketed. 255, 282, 299. Soon, its price exceeded 300 points. At this point, the majority of cultivators understood that the price of spirit mist grass had become a complete bubble. But they were all gambling. They were betting that they could escape unscathed before the bubble burst, while also earning contributions that they couldn't earn in a lifetime of labor. The greed of human nature was fully revealed. The rising trend that could explode at any moment made Li Fan feel shocked as well. Suddenly, a strong sense of unease surged in his heart. At the price of 310 points, Li Fan decisively sold all the remaining 1,900 spirit mist grass in his hands. This didn't even cause a ripple, and it was instantly swallowed by the irrational cultivators. 589,000 contributions. Adding the previous 66,000, Li Fan looked at his total of 650,000 contributions as if in a dream. Chapter 194. A Word to Settle the Storm. In the 12th life, although Li Fan had once possessed a fortune exceeding 1,000,000 contributions, it was the result of diligently cultivating and gaining contributions through the Mingyu Palace over several years. It was hard-earned money. It was nothing like the current situation, where Li Fan had almost invested nothing. Merely by seizing the opportunity to drive speculation, he had collected 650,000 contributions in the blink of an eye. This huge sum of money came too easily, making the situation seem surreal and illusory. Li Fan calmed down a bit. Looking at He Zhenghao and Zhao Shuyuan, who were still immersed in fervent greed, both the main and the clone couldn't help but offer some advice. Pull out, fellow Taoist He. Call it quits, fellow Taoist Zhao. You've earned enough now, don't delay until it's too late. Although the two were in different positions, their reactions were surprisingly consistent. Stop now, how is that possible? The surge of spirit mist grass has just begun. Those several cultivation sites being destroyed indicate that the big shots have truly entered the scene. 300 contribution points is not the end, it's just the beginning. Fellow Taoist, don't delude yourself. He Zhenghao meticulously analyzed, disdainful of Li Fan's suggestion. Not enough, it's still not enough. The opportunity isn't over, let's wait a bit longer. Although Zhao Shuyuan was a bit more rational, he still harbored greed, wanting to earn a bit more. Seeing their states, Li Fan knew that it was impossible for them to listen to anyone's advice now. Good advice is worthless to those blinded by greed. I wonder how many fanatic cultivators will lose their family fortune and shatter their Tao hearts after this. Li Fan sighed inwardly. The bursting of the spirit mist grass bubble was faster than Li Fan had imagined. It was beyond the expectations of the majority of fanatic cultivators. The price of spirit mist grass soared all the way up, breaking through the 350-point mark. It was on the verge of breaking through 400 points. All the cultivators who were rushing to buy spirit mist grass in front of the Tianshuan mirror suddenly had the slightly mechanical and cold voice of the Tianshuan mirror echoing in their minds. Due to the significant abnormal fluctuations in the price of spirit mist grass in recent days, to ensure the stable and harmonious development of the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, the following announcement is hereby made. The 10,000 Immortals Alliance discovered a closed subworld 3 months ago. This subworld is extremely vast, with a high concentration of wood attribute spiritual energy and a rich variety of spiritual plants and herbs. According to a rough estimate, this subworld's production of spirit mist grass alone has an annual yield of around 10 million plants. This is completely capable of satisfying all the internal production and consumption needs of the Alliance. The cultivators no longer paid attention to what came after the Tianshuan mirror's announcement. When they heard that the annual yield of spirit mist grass was as high as 10 million plants, their expressions froze. Endless fear instantly descended, occupying their minds. There were rumors previously about the wood attribute subworld. But under the crazy surge in the price of spirit mist grass, no one was willing to believe this information. They would rather believe that someone with ulterior motives released this information to disrupt the market. They were unwilling to believe in the truth of the information. However, it was different now, because the one announcing this news was the Tianshuan mirror. As the fundamental platform for all resource exchanges within the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, no one would doubt the words of the Tianshuan mirror. So, after the announcement of the Tianshuan mirror, all cultivators felt as if they had been struck by lightning. There was only one thought in their minds. Flee. Flee as fast as possible, and lose as little as possible. But, all cultivators knew that the price of spirit mist grass had completely collapsed. Everyone wanted to sell the spirit mist grass in their hands. And no one was willing to buy any more. The final straw that broke the camel's back was when the Tianshuan mirror directly announced a unified repurchase price. 4 points of contribution per plant. Cultivators who wanted to use their privileges to sell to the Tianshuan mirror according to the real-time price found that the Tianshuan mirror refused to repurchase. As a result, Li Fan witnessed a scene that he would never forget. The price of spirit mist grass, like a waterfall, plummeted. The number changed rapidly, going from 3 digits to 2 digits. From 2 digits to 1 digit. In just over a dozen breaths, the price of spirit mist grass dropped from nearly 400 points to 4 points. Instantly, it plummeted by 99%. In the 1,000-mile hall, Zhao Shuyuan's expression became stagnant, a hideous look frozen on his face. Zhao Shuyuan, never make losing deals. After struggling to utter a few words, cracks appeared on his body, and the breath of life rapidly disappeared. In an instant, Zhao Shuyuan went from a living person to a withered, yellow, and dilapidated piece of wood. With a thud, it fell to the ground, breaking into several pieces. Fellow Taoist Zhao, Li Fan couldn't help but exclaim, rushing forward to check. I'm fine. From under the counter in the 1,000-mile hall came Zhao Shuyuan's gritted teeth voice. Another intact Zhao Shuyuan crawled out from under a pile of debris, carrying a smile uglier than tears. Clearly, the opportunity hadn't ended, but it was all cut off by the Tianquan mirror's single statement. Now, we're in big trouble. Li Fan also pretended to look lost and dejected. I advised you to stop early on, but you didn't listen. My 30% profit has also turned into nothing. If you had cashed out at 300 points, or even at 200 points, it would have been an unimaginable profit. Bang! Countless cracks appeared on the new Zhao Shuyuan's face. In an instant, it exploded into countless fragments. Stop talking. Let me take a break. Another Zhao Shuyuan slowly and painfully crawled out from the debris, replying with a face full of anguish. Seeing this, Li Fan seemed to have come back to his senses and, with a horrified expression, his gaze moved back and forth between the wooden debris on the ground and Zhao Shuyuan. Fellow Taoist Zhao, are you human? Changing the subject seemed to suit Zhao Shuyuan's intentions. He coughed, waving his hand weakly. Fellow Taoist, don't panic. I am, of course, a human. It's just that I cultivate the 10,000 puppet Tao. The 10,000 puppet Tao. Li Fan narrowed his eyes. Don't tell me that all the shopkeepers of the 1,000-mile hall across the cultivation world are your puppets. Li Fan knowingly asked. Hee, that's right. Business is difficult, so naturally, I have to manage everything myself. Employing more people means incurring more costs. Sometimes, having a large store is not necessarily a good thing. Zhao Shuyuan flipped over and lay down, saying weakly. Like this time, just exploding so many puppets is going to. Before he could finish his sentence, this puppet also exploded with a loud bang. Fellow Taoist, don't speak. Let me rest for a moment. Zhao Shuyuan's weak voice came from the bottom of the debris. A communication talisman flew to Li Fan's face. Let's chat later. Li Fan shook the communication talisman in his hand and quietly walked out of the 1,000-mile hall. It wasn't just Zhao Shuyuan who suffered a heavy blow. Chapter 195, finally showing signs. The 10,000 Immortals Island and even the entire 10,000 Immortals Alliance was gloomy in the following period. Every cultivator Li Fan saw appeared dispirited. In fact, Li Fan heard that many cultivators, after losing their fortunes, chose to end their lives in despair. Every now and then, death announcements could be seen in the sky, a sign of those who took extreme measures. Some gamblers who had leveraged heavily and intended to take a risk found themselves deeply in debt after the drastic drop in spirit mist grass prices. Their debt was so insurmountable that even a lifetime of labor couldn't repay. In order to escape debt, some chose to resist forcefully, while others directly defected from the 10,000 Immortals Alliance, seeking refuge with the Five Elders Association. Apparently, there were so many defectors that the manpower of the Martial Hall was insufficient. The Tianquan Mirror broke the norm and issued numerous assassination missions in succession as merit tasks. Furthermore, there were no limits on the number of times these missions could be accepted. For a while, the entire Xuanwang realm was in turmoil and unrest. It was evident how significant the impact of the spirit mist grass incident was. Li Fan also followed suit, completing several assassination missions and raising his permission level to 8. Strangely enough, just a little over a month later, the turmoil spontaneously subsided. The sorrow on the faces of cultivators slowly dissipated, and they returned to their former lively appearances. It seemed as if they had forgotten the recent spirit mist grass incident, rarely mentioning it in their conversations. Even if brought up occasionally, people didn't show signs of deep distress but instead added a touch of mockery and banter. You only lost 50,000 contribution points. Are you kidding? Hee, look at us, who hasn't lost 80 or 100,000? Conversations like these could be heard everywhere. Gradually, the collective memory of the cultivators about the spirit mist grass incident faded away. In the end, only the lamentation of, "It's really hard to earn contribution points," remained. However, Li Fan's memory did not weaken, partially because he was a complete beneficiary in this upheaval, devoid of painful and anxious memories. Additionally, his 650,000 contribution points reminded him constantly. It seems like I don't have to worry about contribution points for a long time. Thinking so, Li Fan sent another message to He Zhenghao. In the meantime, Li Fan had visited He Zhenghao once. In this life, he seemed to have suffered even greater losses than in the 12th life. He looked as if he had been severely traumatized, his eyes vacant and dull. Calling his name only prompted an instinctive response. It wasn't until recently, under the influence of the immortal ancestor, that he slowly recovered. He regretted not heeding Li Fan's advice. Upon learning that Li Fan had successfully pulled out before the bubble burst, he was even more envious. Ah, fellow Taoist Li Fan, it would have been so much better if I had listened to your advice back then. This was probably the umpteenth time Li Fan had heard He Jinghao say something like this. Investing is all about talent. Fellow Taoist He, you obviously aren't suited for it. Listen to my advice, and from now on, focus on doing missions honestly to accumulate contribution points. As long as your life is safe and your cultivation is intact, you can always start anew. Li Fan said with a serious tone. Yes, fellow Taoist, you're right. He Zhenghao nodded repeatedly, then tentatively asked, I wonder how much profit fellow Taoist made this time. A lot, a whole lot, Li Fan said with a cheerful tone. He Zhenghao's face showed envy, and he seemed to want to say something but hesitated, his mouth opening and closing several times without speaking. Li Fan didn't rush to reveal it and decided to let him simmer a bit longer. It was evident that He Zhenghao was not the only one who had lost a lifetime's savings due to an unwise investment. After putting away the 10,000 Immortals Alliance communication talisman, Li Fan's attention shifted to Zhou Qingong on Tian Island. He appeared restless, carrying a frown, pacing back and forth as if contemplating something but unable to make up his mind. Suddenly, his expression changed, and he took out a talisman, saying with resentment, Okay. It's just 50,000 contribution points. I'm the island guardian, rest assured, by the end of this month, I will definitely pay it back. Putting away the communication talisman, Zhou Qingong's face became gloomy. It seemed that he had finally made a decision. Activating a concealing form talisman, he flew out of the Tian Island's guardian formation. Arriving in a desolate, uninhabited sea area, he lingered for a moment, and his aura suddenly changed. Furthermore, Li Fan saw from the vision of heaven and earth that Zhou Qingong's appearance had undergone a complete change in an instant. It wasn't a mere illusion or disguise, he had fundamentally transformed into another person. The original Zhou Qingong was a quiet young scholar. Now, he had become a thin, inconspicuous middle-aged man. After this transformation, Zhou Qingong continued to fly discreetly in a certain direction. He finally showed his true colors. A glint flashed in Li Fan's eyes. He bought a recording stone from the Tianshuan mirror and held it in his hand. Adjusting the monitoring angle slightly, he began recording the scenes he observed with his divine sense. After flying for a whole day, as night fell, Zhou Qingong arrived at a remote and uninhabited small island. The island was desolate to the extreme, lacking even a single tree. A glance revealed nothing but scattered rocks on the ground. Zhou Qingong landed on the small island and surveyed his surroundings. After carefully observing for a long time and confirming that there was no one tracking him, he began searching the island. After a while, he seemed to have found his target. With a happy expression, he held a stone in his hand. The stone was completely ordinary, with no special symbols or markings. It was pockmarked, with a few small holes in specific locations. Zhou Qingong scrutinized the stone for a long time, memorizing the positions of the small holes. He then exerted force and crushed the stone. He flew northwest of the small island. After another half-day, in an uninhabited sea area, Zhou Qingong suddenly stopped. Then he plunged into the sea. At the bottom of the sea, there was a ruin. Zhou Qingong searched for a long time in the ruin, finally stopping in front of an inconspicuous broken stone. A golden light appeared on his hands, and Zhou Qingong pressed his palms on the broken stone. The palm prints matched. A light emerged from the broken stone, sweeping over Zhou Qingong's body. Then it returned to the broken stone. On the smooth, mirror-like surface of the broken stone, a human face image suddenly appeared. Why are you contacting me so early this time? Isn't there still 6 years left? The face, whose specific features couldn't be clearly seen, observed Zhou Qingong with a puzzled expression. Zhou Qingong hesitated with a somewhat awkward expression. The funds are running low. Can you allocate a little more to me? The face was slightly surprised. How did you use up everything so quickly? Hasn't it been a short time since we last communicated? Then, as if recalling something, the tone changed. You fool, did you also get involved in the spirit mist grass speculation? Chapter 196, Returning to the Fallen Immortal Realm. Zhou Qingong hesitated as he explained, considering the trend of spirit mist grass prices at that time, who could resist? It spread like wildfire, and almost every island guardian in the Kongyun Sea was involved in speculation. If I had acted differently, it would have exposed my intentions. Who knew the price would collapse so quickly? Then, as if realizing something, he glanced suspiciously at the face on the broken stone. Head, you didn't participate in the speculation too, did you? The face avoided answering and rebuked, enough nonsense, how much do you need? After a moment of hesitation, Zhou Qingong whispered, 100,000. 100,000, the face's voice suddenly rose a few degrees. No, funding is tight right now, and none of you have shown any concrete results despite lurking for so long. What can I use to request funds from above? The face decisively refused. Seeing this, Zhou Qingong quickly said, there are results, there are results. I've almost deciphered the outer layer of the heavenly transformation formation. In at most 7 or 8 years, I will completely crack the core of the formation. This time, even He Zhenghao suffered heavy losses. I'm applying for these 100,000 contribution points to strengthen my relationship with him. He is proficient in formations and has participated in the deployment of the island protection formation. With his assistance, we will surely master the formation sooner. The face's expression eased slightly upon hearing this. After pondering for a moment, it slowly said, in that case, send me the deciphered formation data first. Zhou Qingong nodded, and once again pressed his palms on the broken stone with closed eyes. A yellow light flickered continuously. After a while, he released his hands. Seemingly exhausted, his face turned extremely pale. The face remained expressionless, seemingly verifying the authenticity of the data. Well done. After a while, the face nodded. However, 100,000 is indeed too much. 50,000, the face suddenly said, changing its tone. Zhou Qingong's face turned bitter. Head, 50,000 is too little. 70,000, or 60,000 would be acceptable. The face completely ignored him. 50 top-grade spirit stones. 1 month later, retrieve them from the usual place. That's final. As the words fell, the light and shadow on the broken stone disappeared, returning to an ordinary-looking stone. With a darkened expression, Zhou Qingong smashed the broken stone with a slap. Returning to his original appearance, he remained silent all the way back to Tian Island. He stayed within the island protection formation, behaving like an ordinary island guardian, making it impossible to tell he was an undercover spy. It seems that, apart from Zhou Qingong, quite a few people are infiltrating under this supervisor. However, these spies within the alliance should not hold high positions. The current task level is only focused on scheming on the island protection formation. In addition, their method of communication seems to be reset with every contact. Although it's troublesome, the one-way communication reduces the risk of being exposed. Seeing that Zhou Qingong had resumed his undercover activities without further actions, Li Fan withdrew his attention and considered how to maximize the benefits of this situation. In addition to finding a way to deceive the inquiry platform, Zhou Qingong's method of changing appearance will be extremely useful for me. It would be great to acquire both methods and then report them to earn merits. Unfortunately, until now, I still haven't found the rumored soul-searching technique. It seems that the Alliance has strict control over this method. Even with my current rank as permission level 8, I haven't found any relevant information. I wonder if there is an opportunity in the fallen immortal realm. Not long ago, Li Fan inexplicably felt a resonance, indicating that he could enter the fallen immortal realm again. However, at that time, he was busy with merit tasks, so he didn't enter again. Now that he was free, Li Fan once again had the idea of exploring the fallen immortal realm. At this point, he began to set up the ritual again. Blessings bestowed by the celestial sovereign of Xuanwang. As the last line was silently recited, numerous miscellaneous sounds entered his ears. Li Fan entered the fallen immortal realm once again. Junior brother, junior brother. When Li Fan saw the surroundings clearly, his heart sank slightly. Junior brother, what are you thinking? Why are you in a daze for so long? A cultivator wearing a purple and white Taoist robe, with a purple lightning mark between his eyebrows, asked. This person was not unfamiliar to Li Fan. It was the cultivator he had encountered during his last visit to the fallen immortal realm, Zhang Qinmo. Why is it here again? Numerous question marks flashed through Li Fan's mind. According to Chen Ying's explanation, every time one enters the fallen immortal realm, they should randomly appear in different locations. Why was his second login location exactly the same as the last time, down to the minute? Could there be a special reason? Thinking about the peculiar aspect of having two lives in this fallen immortal realm, a name suddenly surfaced in Li Fan's mind. Could it be because of the Venerable heart refinement mantra again? Li Fan speculated. Last time, I revealed my spiritual consciousness avatar and was killed by Zhang Qinmo. If I defeat him this time, will the outcome be different? However, senior brother Zhang is not that easy to deal with. Or, if he doesn't discover me, the true me beneath Li Chen's body. Instantly, numerous thoughts surged in Li Fan's mind. However, he didn't forget to respond to the somewhat cynical senior brother before him. Recalling what would happen next, Li Fan quickly pondered, senior brother, I don't know why, but I suddenly feel a bit uneasy. It seems that this trip to obtain the longevity fruit won't be as smooth as expected. Zhang Qinmo was slightly stunned, and instead of laughing it off, he paid great attention to it. He gently pinched his right hand, and it seemed like a purple cloud floated through his eyes. After a while, Zhang Qinmo's expression became serious. Junior brother, your premonition is correct. There is indeed something unusual about this Ningyuan city. Really? Li Fan appeared extremely surprised. Then, senior brother, what should we do next? Zhang Qinmo pondered for a moment and said, the hexagram indicates that although there is some risk, there is no threat to life. The longevity fruit must be obtained. If we don't even set foot into Ningyuan city and instead return to the sect for reinforcements, wouldn't we be ridiculed by our peers? It might be better for both of us to sneak into the city secretly, investigate the situation, and then decide. Li Fan readily agreed, senior brother is right. Zhang Qinmo activated some kind of technique, and the lightning mark on his forehead gradually receded, his aura completely concealed. Observing this scene, as if by instinct, Li Fan also skillfully hid his own aura. So, this is the breath-concealing technique from the Purple Heaven Royal Thunder technique. As if controlling a character in a game, Li Fan could now use various techniques and moves from Li Chen, but he didn't have a deep understanding of the techniques themselves. Chapter 197, Purple Heaven Soul Observation Technique. Li Fan and Zhang Qinmo, disguised in new appearances, quietly infiltrated Ningyuan city. Senior brother, I think if someone with ill intentions wants to ambush us, the best way is to catch us off guard. It's very likely that they're lurking near your old favorite, Chixia. Li Fan transmitted his thoughts. Zhang Qinmo's face blushed slightly, and after pondering for a moment, he said, Junior brother, you make a lot of sense. Let's first go to the drunken Immortal Tower. Following Zhang Qinmo, Li Fan arrived near the bustling center of the city. Across from the drunken Immortal Tower was a large stage where a theatrical performance was taking place. A crowd of common people gathered to watch, while laughter and singing could be faintly heard from the drunken Immortal Tower. Upon reaching this location, Zhang Qinmo's eyes were fixed on a woman on the stage wearing theatrical attire, exuding a noble aura. His gaze seemed to be glued to her, unable to look away. Meanwhile, Li Fan, in the crowd, searched for the ambush set up by Chu Liang and others. Perhaps thinking that Zhang Qinmo and Li Fan had not yet arrived, Chu Liang did not conceal his presence much. He merely hid his aura and blended in with the onlookers. It didn't take much effort for Li Fan to find him. Senior brother, why does that person look a bit familiar? Li Fan awakened Zhang Qinmo, who was immersed in Chixia's performance, and transmitted Chu Liang's appearance to him through his spiritual sense. He seems somewhat familiar. Who is he? After a long time, Zhang Qinmo finally remembered who Chu Liang was. Chu Liang, wasn't he expelled from the sect a long time ago because he couldn't cultivate? Why would he appear here? Zhang Qinmo was surprised. Li Fan added, this Chu Liang doesn't seem to be an ordinary person. It seems he's hiding his cultivation base. Zhang Qinmo nodded silently, indeed. There must be something strange about this. After some thought, he said, Junior brother, let's surround him, one in the front and one in the back. Then, let's simultaneously use Spring Thunder Shock to subdue him. We can question him later. Information about Spring Thunder Shock instantly surfaced in Li Fan's mind. It was a technique from the Purple Heaven Royal Thunder technique, a method of spiritual attack. It could cause a momentary shock to the opponent's mind, like the first thunder in spring, making them lose control of their body for an instant. Compared to the Purple Heaven Royal Thunder technique, most of the techniques I've seen before seem to be only for cultivation and advancing realms. It's as if they were deliberately truncated, lacking many such methods. Perhaps only this ancient Purple Heaven Royal Thunder technique can be considered a true technique. After a brief comparison, Li Fan couldn't help but think this way. Li Fan agreed with the plan, and the two disciples separated in the crowd and approached Chu Liang from different directions. Chu Liang's vigilance seemed a bit low. It wasn't until Li Fan and Jiang Qinmo were close that he vaguely sensed something was wrong. Looking at Jiang Qinmo suddenly appearing in front of him, Chu Liang's face showed a look of horror. However, before he could react, he was hit by spring thunder shock from both sides. His eyes lost focus, his whole body stiffened, and he couldn't move. Jiang Qinmo approached and restrained him, quietly taking him to an uninhabited house. By now, Chu Liang had regained consciousness. His eyes were filled with hatred as he stared fixedly at Jiang Qinmo. "Are you Chu Liang? Why are you here? In just over 30 years, you've transformed from an untalented ordinary person, unable to cultivate, into a foundation establishment cultivator. What kind of evil technique are you using?" Jiang Qinmo's face remained expressionless as he asked coldly. Chu Liang snorted but remained silent. "Do you think if you don't speak, I won't be able to find out?" A trace of disdain appeared on Jiang Qinmo's face. "As a loose cultivator, how could you possibly know the methods of our orthodox sect?" Having said that, Jiang Qinmo's 5 fingers turned into claws, reaching for Chu Liang's head. In an instant, Chu Liang felt as if he was struck by lightning. His whole body trembled uncontrollably. A look of extreme pain appeared on his face, and his eyes gradually lost their luster. However, Jiang Qinmo remained unmoved, still firmly holding onto Chu Liang. In the end, Chu Liang's pupils dimmed, and his body spasmed involuntarily. Bang! Casually tossing Chu Liang, who had lost any use, to the ground, Jiang Qinmo stood there, silent for a long time. "Senior brother, what's going on?" Watching this scene that closely resembled soul-searching, Li Fan's gaze flickered. However, he didn't make any inappropriate moves for the time being, he simply spoke up. Jiang Qinmo didn't immediately respond but continued to mutter something. "Extract the essence of heaven and earth. Sacrifice the spirit of heaven and earth. Defy the principles of heaven and earth." Seemingly deeply shaken, he seemed unable to control himself for a moment. "Senior brother." Li Fan had to speak again to bring him back to awareness. "Who?" Jiang Qinmo let out a long breath, slowly recovering from the shock. His expression became extremely serious. "Junior brother, I'm afraid the seriousness of this matter goes beyond our imagination. We need to quickly conclude matters here, return to the sect, and report to the sect master." Li Fan asked in astonishment, what exactly happened? Why would it be necessary to alert the sect master? Jiang Qinmo immediately explained the matter about the immortal ancestor transmitting a new cultivation method that didn't require spiritual roots. There are 3 more accomplices in the city, and steward Song Hisong, who has already reached the Golden Core realm, is also practicing the new method. Follow me to capture the 3 foundation establishment cultivators first. Li Fan couldn't help but ask, what about the steward at the Golden Core realm? Rest assured, leave it to me. However, he's just a dog in my eyes. Jiang Qinmo revealed a trace of disdain on his face. Li Fan nodded without refuting. Next, the 2 of them easily captured the remaining 3 foundation establishment cultivators with ambushes. "Junior brother, wait for me here and keep an eye on these people. I'll go and capture Steward Song, then, I'll find you later," Jiang Qinmo instructed. Li Fan checked the skills learned by Li Chen again and did not find the soul-searching technique that Jiang Qinmo had just displayed. "So," he asked tentatively, "Senior brother, how is the soul-searching technique performed? I'm idle, and I want to see if I can extract some useful information from these people's minds." Jiang Qinmo was slightly surprised, appraised Li Fan for a moment, and chuckled, who is it that said the soul-searching technique is too cruel and refused to learn it before? Today, after almost being ambushed, you've seen the cruelty of the cultivation. The knot in your heart has untied, hasn't it? Junior brother, remember, in the path to immortality, there is no room for half-heartedness. Compassion cannot be tolerated, not to mention the soul-searching technique. Even more cruel methods, such as refining puppets with a cultivator's body or using souls to refine spiritual treasures, must be used when it is necessary. As he spoke, Jiang Qinmo pointed his finger at the center of Li Fan's eyebrows, transmitting a technique called the Purple Heaven Soul Observation Technique. Chapter 198. Difference of Thousands of Years. Purify the soul with purple heaven, penetrate the spirit. In an instant, a soul-searching technique consisting of tens of thousands of words appeared in Li Fan's mind. "Junior brother, wait for me here. I'll be back soon, Zhang Qinmo said. Without waiting for Li Fan's response, he flew away. Purple Heaven Soul Observation. After carefully reading this unique soul-searching technique of the Purple Heaven sect, Li Fan mastered it. The technique explicitly stated that in the current cultivation world, constant conflicts occurred among major sects, righteous and demonic cultivators, and various beasts and monsters. Killing, seizing treasures, soul-searching, and soul-refining were all common occurrences. Soul-searching, in particular, involves extracting memories from the opponent's soul through various methods. Different factions had their own styles and habits, resulting in various approaches. Some methods were cruel and brutal, causing permanent damage to the soul during the process. Those who underwent soul-searching would be left mentally impaired even if they survived. Others were more ingenious, not only searching memories but also modifying and distorting them, leaving spiritual imprints and turning enemies into loyal servants. The soul-searching technique of the Purple Heaven sect was considered moderate and peaceful. It wouldn't cause significant harm to the soul, only inflicting a temporary pain similar to the strike of Purple Heaven Royal Thunder during the process. With careful recovery afterward, the soul could be restored. However, it would leave an inexplicable fear in the heart. After sensing the presence of Purple Heaven sect disciples, individuals would feel as if they had encountered a natural enemy, lacking the courage to resist. Mimicking Zhang Qinmo, Li Fan extended his hand like claws, reaching for one of the captives. As he activated the Purple Heaven Soul Observation technique, countless images surged like giant waves. Similar to the reproduction of the mountain meditation technique using the sun-stealing technique, this technique could vividly display memories. Scene after scene appeared. Li Fan ignored insignificant details and focused on relatively important parts. This foundation establishment cultivator was named Lu Tu. Over 40 years ago, he was just an ordinary villager in the mountains. One day, while hunting in the mountains, he got lost and stumbled upon a hidden valley. To his surprise, this usually empty valley was now filled with many people. Some were powerful cultivators, but most were ordinary mortals like Lu Tu. They all sat together, listening attentively to the passionate speech of a young cultivator. Decades ago, I was like most of you, a powerless mortal unable to control my own destiny. Although I aspired to the path of immortality, I did not have spiritual roots and was unable to cultivate. Fortunately, I witnessed the immortal ancestor preaching and obtained a supreme technique. From then on, I had no need for spiritual roots to cultivate. In just 10 years, I have achieved the golden core realm. The immortal ancestor said, the path of immortality is. Under the guidance of the young cultivator, dozens of mortals condensed the roots of heaven and earth and entered the chi condensation stage on the spot. Lu Tu was fascinated. Although his aptitude was slightly inferior, preventing him from condensing chi, he had memorized the 5-spirit chi sensing method. After returning home, in less than half a month, he successfully absorbed spiritual energy into his body and became a true cultivator. Afterward, Lu Tu found and joined an organization formed by cultivators practicing the new path to immortality called the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. After selecting the most popular, Heavenly Net Divine Art, as his primary cultivation method, Lu Tu spent 5 or 6 years cultivating and successfully built his foundation using the spiritual treasure, Mountain Spiritual Ginseng. After that, he encountered Chu Liang, who invited him to join the ambush on Zhang Qinmo and Li Chen as they harvested longevity fruits in Ningyuan City. The title of inner sect disciple of the Purple Heaven sect made Lu Tu somewhat fearful. However, with Song He-song, a golden core realm cultivator, as the leading figure, and the temptation of the supreme technique, Purple Heaven Royal Thunder technique, Lu Tu reluctantly agreed. Unexpectedly, they encountered Zhang Qinmo, who could kill golden core cultivators at the foundation establishment stage. Bang! After the soul searching was completed, Li Fan threw Lu Tu to the ground and gently pressed his throbbing temples. He calmed down his turbulent soul. Soul searching was an ingenious technique capable of comprehensively revealing an enemy's secrets by reading their memories. However, it wasn't without risks. The consumption of one's own spiritual consciousness was also extremely astonishing. In Li Fan's case, it had overexhausted him. Moreover, if one encountered someone playing pig to eat the Tajera pretending to be defeated only to launch a fatal counterattack during the soul-searching process, the risks were even greater. In this fallen immortal realm, I am only a spiritual consciousness incarnation, and my spiritual consciousness intensity is not as strong as my original body. However, the consumption of soul-searching is still too high. Recalling Zhang Qinmo's effortless demeanor earlier, Li Fan couldn't help but wonder if he had used the technique incorrectly. But after reviewing Li Chen's memories and a little thought, Li Fan understood. At this point in time, major sects spared no effort and expense in nurturing elite disciples. There was no shortage of all sorts of geniuses and treasures, and a variety of secret techniques could be casually selected. From practical sparring to refining spiritual consciousness, to guidance and personal instruction from senior experts within the sect, all these resources were available for rapid growth. In contrast, in the modern cultivation world, a complete cultivation method would be deliberately divided into several different parts, restricting the combat power of cultivators. Want to strengthen yourself with rare treasures? Want secret techniques to fend off enemies? Well, then, complete tasks and accumulate contribution points. Even when you've accumulated enough contribution points, you might still not find what you're looking for. Oh, that could be because your permission level isn't high enough. Do some merit tasks and accumulate for a few years. Although Li Fan didn't know the situation with the Five Elders Association, it should be roughly the same. In reality, the vast majority of cultivators today would not be able to enter Zhang Qinmo's eyes. According to Lu Tu's memories, the initial 10,000 Immortals Alliance provided various spiritual techniques and secrets. Take the most practiced, Heavenly Net Divine Art, as an example. Its content covered everything, including restraining breath, escape techniques, refining spiritual consciousness, strengthening the physical body, chi cultivation, alchemy, talisman crafting, and formations of every aspect imaginable. It was indeed the best introductory cultivation method. Although it might not excel in every aspect, its comprehensiveness made up for it. Li Fan couldn't estimate how high a price this cultivation method would fetch in the current 10,000 Immortals Alliance. This was just one of the dozens of free cultivation methods available at this time in the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. Comparing the differences, Li Fan couldn't help but feel the sentiment: how did the 10,000 Immortals Alliance end up like this? The disparity between casual cultivators was already significant, not to mention compared with elite disciples of major sects like Zhang Qinmo. Although Li Fan possessed extraordinary treasures like truth, and his spiritual consciousness far surpassed ordinary cultivators, he hadn't undergone systematic strengthening and lacked the supplementation of rare treasures. Therefore, there was still a considerable gap between him and someone like senior brother Zhang. Checking his own situation, Li Fan frowned slightly. Due to excessive consumption of spiritual consciousness, the time I can stay in this fallen immortal realm has sharply decreased. Originally, I could maintain my state for about half a month, but now it's only 7 or 8 days. However, I've already achieved some gains. I can leave the fallen immortal realm prematurely. I just need to reverse simulate the ritual in my mind. However, I don't know if I've satisfied the conditions to bring items back to reality. Bringing items and information from the fallen immortal realm to the real world required specific conditions. The exact conditions weren't clearly explained by Chen Ying when he introduced them, and currently, the Tianquan mirror wouldn't reveal information about the fallen immortal realm. Li Fan had to figure it out himself. The higher the value of the item, the more difficult it is to bring back. Forget about this, Heavenly Net Divine Art, for now. If I can bring back the Purple Heaven Soul Observation Technique, my goal will be achieved. What are the conditions? Kill Zhang Qinmo. Li Fan was currently clueless. Regardless, let's return to reality first. Maybe I can recall the specific details of the soul-searching technique in reality. After contemplating for a moment, Li Fan made a decision. He directly initiated the ritual in his mind to return. A moment of dizziness struck, and in an instant, the surroundings shattered like starlight. Li Fan's consciousness returned to the Tianquan mirror. Li Fan began to carefully recall various scenes from this journey to the fallen immortal realm. Specific events and every conversation with senior brother Zhang were still fresh in his memory. But when he tried to recall the Purple Heaven Soul Observation Technique and the Heavenly Net Divine Art, he couldn't remember anything. It was like drawing water with a bamboo basket, all in vain. As expected, it's not that easy. The treasures were in my hands, but they're like the moon reflected in water, just out of reach. This feeling is really uncomfortable. I'll have to go back in and look for specific conditions. Fortunately, I voluntarily exited last time. The required time interval for re-entry has significantly shortened. During this waiting period, Li Fan purchased a concealment talisman, disguised himself as a golden core cultivator, and traveled to the fish gambling island. Due to the commotion caused by the spirit mist grass, there were fewer cultivators gathered here. Li Fan randomly picked a fish to bet on and then subtly inquired about information on the fallen immortal realm from the golden core cultivators in the crowd. After some casual chat, Li Fan learned that each person's entry point into the fallen immortal realm was different. Sometimes they entered and got caught in a battle between good and evil and were casually killed by powerful figures on the battlefield. Sometimes, with good luck, they occupied the body of a disciple from a certain sect. However, in just over 10 days, finding the conditions to bring out a cultivation method was quite challenging. They could only regretfully watch the cultivation method disappear from their memories. Chapter 199, The Unstoppable New Law. Clearly, no one could repeatedly enter the same location like Li Fan. However, there was a golden core cultivator who was quite pleased with himself and boasted about his experiences. Once, he appeared in the fallen immortal realm and occupied the body of a young man. This young man's family had been exterminated in childhood. The entire family met a tragic end, and only the young man escaped. While struggling for survival, the young man investigated the mastermind behind the extermination. By a stroke of luck, the young man witnessed two cultivators fighting to the death in the mountains one day, ultimately perishing together. From the corpses of these two cultivators, the young man found some elixirs and two cultivation techniques. Eventually, he embarked on the path of cultivation. Just as he achieved success in cultivation, reached the foundation establishment stage, and found clues to the extermination case, he was coincidentally occupied by this golden core cultivator. Following the clues, the golden core cultivator successfully found the murderer within a limited time of a dozen days. He, too, massacred the murderer's entire family in revenge. After leaving the fallen immortal realm, the golden core cultivator successfully brought back a cultivation technique. He sold it for a good price of 30,000 contribution points. After hearing the story, everyone couldn't help but feel envious, praising his good luck. So, I believe that one possible way to bring items out is through exchange. If I wanted this young man to give me the cultivation technique, I needed to help him fulfill his long-cherished wish. His wish is to avenge his family's deaths, and I've accomplished that. In exchange, he naturally is willing to give me the cultivation technique. This golden core cultivator named Ji Xingwen spoke confidently. Li Fan and the others listened with thoughtful expressions. Having obtained the desired information, Li Fan recorded the appearance of the prize-winning fish and hurriedly returned to 10,000 Immortals Island. He accelerated his cultivation in the Tianquan mirror while waiting. After more than 10 days, Li Fan sensed that he could once again enter the fallen immortal realm. He immediately performed the ritual. Unsurprisingly, he still possessed the body of Purple Heaven Sect's Li Chen, just like the previous 2 times. Li Fan followed the same procedure as before. "Junior brother, wait here. I'll be right back." Zhang Qinmo's words were not finished before he had already gone far away. This time, Li Fan chose another person to soul search. The second use of the Purple Heaven soul observation technique was more skillful than the first. However, it still consumed a lot. He carefully examined the past experiences of this person but found nothing special. His encounters were quite similar to Lu Tu, as he was just an ordinary mortal. By chance, he came across someone spreading the new law of cultivation, and after stepping onto the path to immortality, he joined the 10,000 Immortals Alliance. However, in his memory, the one who taught the new law for mortals was not the enthusiastic young man who reached Golden Core in 10 years. Instead, it was a stunningly beautiful woman in white. This woman's cultivation speed was even more astonishing. It was said that she achieved the nascent soul realm and became a true lord in just 20 years. It seems that there are quite a few cultivators who personally witnessed the immortal ancestor teaching the law and later helped spread the new law. Li Fan casually tossed the cultivator, whose soul had been thoroughly searched, onto the ground like a puddle of mud and looked towards the center of Ningyuan City. Some time had passed, but the conflict had not yet erupted. After a long time, Li Fan saw that Zhang Qinmo had come out of the drunken immortal tower and was heading slowly towards the tree of everlasting life. Li Fan also noticed that outside the drunken immortal tower, Zhang Qinmo had clearly set up a barrier. He was afraid that the upcoming battle with Song Hisong would affect his old flame Chixia. It seems that this senior brother Zhang is quite sentimental. Perhaps, to bring back the Purple Heaven soul observation technique, I can start from this aspect. Li Fan's eyes flickered with an inexplicable light. Boom! A purple thunderbolt as thick as a bucket suddenly descended from the sky. Song He-song's miserable scream immediately spread throughout Ningyuan City. Li Fan saw that the life transformation grand formation within the city rapidly operated, extracting strands of green vitality from the mortals towards the direction of the fight. Zhang Qinmo, although you are an inner disciple, you are only at the foundation establishment stage. Do you really think I'm afraid of you? Song He-song's voice was like thunder, echoing throughout the city. A blood-colored bell instantly enveloped Zhang Qinmo. Then, Li Fan saw Song He-song casually clap his hands, and countless buildings turned into ruins. The mortals inside the buildings shivered in fear. Before they could scream, they perished. From the corpses of the mortals, a large mass of almost substantial blood-colored energy surged into the sky, rushing towards Song He-song. In the blood light, the faces of the just deceased mortals appeared. Countless faces rushed towards Zhang Qinmo, trapped inside the bell. After a moment, senior brother Zhang fell into a state of stunned stillness. This sentient soul refinement formation is indeed extraordinary. Although Zhang Qinmo took the initiative this time, he is still trapped by the formation. After a long time, Li Fan finally saw Zhang Qinmo coming out of the drunken immortal tower with satisfaction, slowly walking towards the direction of the tree of everlasting life. Li Fan also noticed that outside the drunken immortal tower, Zhang Qinmo had obviously set up a barrier. It was probably because he was worried that the upcoming battle with Song He-song would affect his old lover Chixia. It seems that senior brother Zhang is indeed a sentimental person. Perhaps, if I want to bring back the Purple Heaven Soul Observation technique, I can start from this aspect. Li Fan's eyes flickered with an inexplicable light. Boom! A thunderous sound echoed as a thick purple thunderbolt suddenly descended from the sky. Song He-song's screams instantly spread throughout the entire Ningyuan city. Li Fan saw that the life transformation grand formation within the city operated rapidly, extracting strands of green vitality from the mortals and flying towards the direction where the two were fighting. Zhang Qinmo, although you are an inner disciple, you are only at the golden core stage. Do you really think I'm afraid of you? Song He-song's voice was like thunder, echoing throughout the city. A blood-colored bell instantly enveloped Zhang Qinmo. Then, Li Fan saw Song He-song casually clap his hands, and countless buildings turned into ruins. The mortals inside the buildings shivered in fear, perishing before they could even scream. From the corpses of the mortals, a large group of almost substantial blood-colored aura surged into the sky, rushing towards Song He-song. In the blood light, the faces of the just deceased mortals appeared. Countless faces rushed towards Zhang Qinmo, trapped inside the bell. After a moment, senior brother Zhang fell into a state of stunned stillness. This sentient soul refinement formation is indeed extraordinary. Although Zhang Qinmo took the initiative this time, he is still trapped by the formation. Unfortunately, it must mortal lives as a medium. It's much less useful in the modern day. Li Fan silently watched Song He-song ruthlessly harvest the lives of mortals in the city, turning them into his means against the enemy. Ningyuan City became a scene of devastation in an instant. Countless mortals died under Song He-song's hands, but only the drunken immortal tower protected by senior brother Zhang's barrier and the place where Li Fan was currently located remained safe. As the mortals in Ningyuan City continued to die, inside the sentient soul refinement formation, half of Zhang Qinmo's head had already exploded. However, he was still alive. Song He-song turned pale, just like before. However, his fear was quickly suppressed by greed. Red flames roasted Zhang Qinmo, revealing the purple core inside him. Song He-song finally noticed something was amiss. He clapped his hands continuously, killing the remaining mortals in Ningyuan City and summoning blood-colored human faces to block the way while he retreated towards the rear. He actually sensed something was wrong and fled. Li Fan squinted his eyes and threw Li Chen's spear towards the escaping Song He-song. At the same time, he activated the Purple Heaven Thundercalling technique, a purple thunderbolt striking down towards Song He-song. The thunder hit him directly, freezing Song He-song's figure as the spear, carrying traces of purple lightning, was about to pierce him fiercely. However, he was still a golden core cultivator. In a critical moment, he recovered from his stiffness. He tightly gripped the spear. A burst of lightning erupted from the long spear. Song He-song unconsciously loosened his grip, allowing the long spear to return to Li Fan's hands. Song He-song, high above, glanced in the direction where Li Fan was. Although Li Fan was just a foundation establishment cultivator, Song He-song, as a golden core cultivator, didn't even consider fighting back at this moment. He just looked at Li Fan with resentment and was about to turn into blood light to escape again. Junior brother, well done. The purple core glowed brightly as Jiang Qinmo's physical body reappeared. The radiance converged, forming into clothes. With a step, he turned into purple thunder and intercepted the blood light. Just like before, Jiang Qinmo strangled Song Yisong. Traitor of the sect, die. The purple heaven lightning descended from the sky, announcing Song Yisong's imminent demise. A golden core cultivator died so easily in the hands of Jiang Qinmo. As if he had casually slaughtered a chicken or dog, Jiang Qinmo's face showed no emotional fluctuations. Swiftly, he arrived beside Li Fan, suppressing his aura. The matter here is concluded, junior brother. Let's return to the sect as soon as possible. These few people will be taken along as evidence. Jiang Qinmo pointed to the 4 Foundation establishment cultivators who were previously captured. As for the vast ruins and countless casualties in Ningyuan City, he completely ignored them. Summoning the purple heaven flying cloud, he placed the captives on it and flew into the sky. As they were about to leave, Li Fan suddenly knocked the captives unconscious and asked, "Senior brother, how do you view this new law?" Jiang Qinmo remained silent for a long time before slowly saying, "It's an unorthodox method, and is not the authentic way." Li Fan chuckled, "Is that really what senior brother thinks?" Pointing to the captives lying in various postures on the purple heaven flying cloud, Li Fan said with a deep tone, "Senior brother, look at these people. Without even comparing them with you and me, even compared to those outer disciples and miscellaneous disciples in the sect, they are far inferior. They've cultivated for far less time, but now they all have foundation establishment cultivation, just like us." Jiang Qinmo frowned, "Junior brother, what are you trying to say?" Li Fan didn't answer directly but continued, "When those thousands of fellow disciples in the sect who don't have true inheritance learn about the existence of this new law, will they still be willing to languish in the sect, doing trivial and insignificant tasks, just to be able to go further on the path of immortality? Now, the path to immortality is wide open, but it does not begin at our Purple Heaven sect." Li Fan pointed to the ruined Ningyuan city below, saying, "Today, in the battle between senior brother and Song Yisong, mortals suffered greatly, with countless deaths and injuries. After all, there is a difference between immortals and mortals. The power of mortals is too weak. In the hands of us cultivators, they have no resistance at all. But, does senior brother think they have no grievances at all? Those surviving mortals, although as weak as ants, number in the billions. If they know about the existence of the new law, how will they choose? Senior brother has great power, easily slaughtering 4 or 5 cultivators of the same level. But if today, within Ningyuan City, 1/10 of the mortals are at the foundation establishment stage, would senior brother still dare to be so unrestrained?" Jiang Qinmo remained silent. Li Fan gazed intently, staring at Jiang Qinmo. "Senior brother's understanding far exceeds mine. Things that I can think through, senior brother must have already figured out long ago." "Junior brother." Jiang Qinmo was about to speak but was directly interrupted by Li Fan. "The rise of the new technique is unstoppable. If you go with the flow, you prosper, if you resist, you perish. Don't you think so, senior brother?" Li Fan pressed. Although he also thought so in his heart, seeing his junior brother say it so bluntly, Jiang Qinmo's face turned somewhat pale. If it weren't for the fact that this junior brother of his had never left the mountain since he entered the sect, Jiang Qinmo would almost think that he had already embraced the new law. "Junior brother, be careful with your words." Jiang Qinmo spoke to dissuade him. "This matter, let the elders of the sect make the decision." Li Fan smiled faintly, not wanting to discuss this topic further. Instead, he suddenly changed the subject. "Before, in the mountains, senior brother often sighed that Miss Chixia couldn't cultivate due to lack of spiritual roots. That's why she was unwilling to return to the sect with you. Now that senior brother has learned about the new technique, I wonder if you have informed Miss Chixia about it." Jiang Qinmo, who was indifferent to killing enemies, surprisingly hesitated and looked embarrassed in the face of Li Fan's questioning. "Senior brother, unlike us cultivators, mortals can't enjoy eternal youth. You should know that life ages and beauty fades. How much time can mortals afford to waste? Do you really have the heart to watch her age day by day and avoid any interaction with you?" Li Fan's words were like a barrage, relentlessly pressing Jiang Qinmo. After a long time, as if going through intense mental struggles, Jiang Qinmo finally sighed deeply. "Junior brother, wait here. I'll be back soon." Having said that, he flew towards the drunken immortal tower below. Chapter 200. 7 Aperture Exquisite Heart. Jiang Qinmo's trip took quite a while. 3 days and nights passed without a trace of him. Li Fan stood on the purple heaven flying cloud, observing the ruined Ningyuan city below. During the battle between Zhang Qinmo and Song Yisong, most parts of Ningyuan city turned into ruins. The surviving mortals under this catastrophe had eyes filled with confusion. Mr. Bai has spoken. Those with strength, come here and gather. Let's do our best to dig and rescue those who are still alive. Those with minor injuries, help gather water and food. Place those with severe injuries in the small temple. Mr. Bai will treat them there. Just when the victims were sinking into despair, shouts suddenly echoed throughout Ningyuan city, emanating from various places. Li Fan found it interesting because the owners of these voices were unexpectedly children around 10 years old. Dressed as beggars, they were slender but exceptionally clever. The calls of the children were like the dawn before sunrise, illuminating the darkness. As if they had grown a backbone, people gradually began to awaken from numbness and confusion. They eventually started self-rescue in an orderly manner. Watching this scene, Li Fan was abruptly reminded of the time he had organized rescue operations in Xuanjing City, which was destroyed after he first met Ko Hong and Dao Xuanzi. In the midst of his contemplation, there was a sudden surge of spiritual energy fluctuations from the drunken Immortal Tower. It seems that Miss Chixia has successfully condensed qi into her body, Li Fan thought to himself. Sure enough, after half a day, Zhang Qinmo returned. Although his expression remained calm, the joy in his eyes was hard to conceal. Junior brother, you've waited a long time. Zhang Qinmo apologized. Congratulations, senior brother, on settling this matter. Li Fan smiled and said, Miss Chixia isn't coming back to the mountain with us. Zhang Qinmo waved his hand, let's wait for the sect leader to make a decision first. Since we've waited so long, we don't mind waiting a little longer. However, in my opinion, it might be difficult for those old folks in the sect to accept this so-called new law in a short time. Zhang Qinmo sneered. Li Fan nodded in agreement. With only 3 or 4 days left in the fallen immortal realm, Li Fan wasn't in a hurry to return. He wanted to take this opportunity to visit the Purple Heaven sect. Unfortunately, the mountain gate of the Purple Heaven sect was quite far from Ningyuan city. After walking more than half of the distance, Li Fan felt the scenery around him becoming blurry. The images and sounds faded one after another, and after a moment, Li Fan's consciousness returned to the Tianquan mirror. A strange heat surged in his head, bringing a tingling sensation. Li Fan couldn't help but frown, but then he couldn't help but show a happy expression. After a moment of contemplation, the content of the Purple Heaven Soul Observation Technique appeared clearly and vividly in his mind. This method of equivalent exchange is indeed effective. A spiritual consciousness technique is not a cultivation technique, so there is no prompt about the number of cultivators. With his previous experience in the fallen immortal realm, Li Fan effortlessly mastered it. With this soul-searching technique, I only need to wait for Zhou Qingong to fetch those 50 top-grade spirit stones. After purchasing some items in the Tianquan mirror as backups, Li Fan practiced while patiently waiting. 7 days later, he sensed Zhou Qingong had once again changed his appearance and left Tian Island. Li Fan also left 10,000 Immortals Island at the same time, concealing his figure and heading towards Zhou Qingong's location. Li Fan had been to the location where Zhou Qingong received the spirit stones before. It was Yulin Island, where he had obtained the legacy of He Zhenghao, the interpretation of the 100 Veins formation diagram, from the 10,000 Immortals Pavilion in the 12th life. Instead of entering, he quietly waited outside. Not long after, Zhou Qingong swaggered out of Yulin Island. He flew towards a remote sea area, likely intending to change his appearance again. This was exactly what Li Fan wanted. He silently followed behind. With the tracking and surveillance of the formless killing intent, no matter what tricks Zhou Qingong used, he couldn't shake off Li Fan's pursuit. After half a day, Zhou Qingong felt safe. He dived into the depths of the sea, found a ruin, and transformed back into his original appearance. With the top-grade spirit stones worth 50,000 contribution points in his storage ring, Zhou Qingong planned to make a trip to 10,000 Immortals Island to settle his debts. However, as he emerged from the sea, Zhou Qingong was horrified to find that, for some unknown reason, his entire body suddenly froze, and he lost control of his body. Simultaneously, a deafening gong-like sound erupted overhead. Dizzy and disoriented, Zhou Qingong thought, ah! Before he could think further, Zhou Qingong was stunned. Li Fan appeared, grabbed Zhou Qingong, and submerged back into the sea. After finding a building in the ruins, Li Fan casually set up some formations around and entered. He threw Zhou Qingong, who had lost consciousness, to the ground. Then, he took out 13 cold iron nails from his storage ring and pierced them into Zhou Qingong's body. Only then did Li Fan use the purple heaven soul observation technique. Zhou Qingong's body convulsed violently. Images flashed rapidly before Li Fan's eyes. Building the foundation with the 7-aperture exquisite heart, changing appearance with the heart-changing technique. So that's how it is. To infiltrate the 10,000 Immortals Alliance as a spy, he indeed has some skills. Li Fan was instantly delighted. Just as Li Fan was about to continue examining information on Zhou Qingong's superior and the organization he served, it seemed to trigger some kind of prohibition. A terrifying destructive force erupted from the depths of Zhou Qingong's soul. Li Fan's face changed, and he instantly withdrew his spiritual consciousness. However, he couldn't stop this force from damaging Zhou Qingong's soul. Even in a coma, Zhou Qingong let out a miserable scream. Then, Li Fan saw that his soul was wiped out in an instant. Although his vitality remained, he became like a walking corpse, an empty shell. A secrecy countermeasure. Li Fan didn't find it particularly surprising. It's a pity that I couldn't uncover more secrets. After contemplating for a moment, Li Fan erased the traces of the formations he had set up earlier. Then, carrying Zhou Qingong's body, he fled hundreds of miles away. He arrived in an area densely populated with fish. He threw Zhou Qingong towards the school of fish. Although the soul disappeared, the aura emanating from the Foundation establishment cultivation level naturally made these fish instinctively fear him. They all moved away, lacking the courage to treat this body as food. Seeing this, Li Fan once again targeted the strongest fish in the school using formless killing intent. Then, he retreated another 100 miles. The formless killing intent targeting Zhou Qingong was activated.